The Throne of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476 Competition. This was not over yet. Colonel Barisi walked over and pretended to hug Gu Jiahua intimately. Brother Gu, let me tell you a secret. If it were other girls, they might not be able to control you, but you can't afford to offend our Lieutenant Colonel Zhang Yingying. Her father is Admiral Zhang Yuan, the commander of the First Fleet of the Galaxy Military, and her grandfather is Admiral Zhang Qinglong, the Chief of Staff of our Galaxy Empire Military. You say, can't she control you? Hearing this, Gu Jiahua immediately broke out in a cold sweat. He then looked at Zhang Yingying. This girl was too young, so he overlooked that it was impossible for such a young person to climb to the position of colonel if her family had no power. Lieutenant Colonel Zhang Yingying, you are right to criticize me. I just spoke out of turn after drinking. Those were all drunken words. Please don't take it to heart. Zhang Yingying rolled her eyes at him. In our Nebula Nights, everything is now decided by Colonel Barisi. Whatever he says, it's up to him. Now that her family background has been exposed, Zhang Yingying is no longer reserved. She directly puts on the airs of a young lady, and at the same time, gives Colonel Barisi a huge favor. Brother Barisi, you see, just do as I said just now. I will pretend that what happened before never happened, but now you must evacuate everyone and restore the base to its original state. Barisi said calmly. Okay, that's it. I will order the personnel to evacuate immediately. Then Gu Jiahua stood up and arranged for his men to evacuate. At this time, they were full of wine and food, so Gu Jiahua asked his men to take a few people to the lounge to rest. In the luxurious lounge, Hans Grandit took out a special device from his body and scanned the room. As expected, he found two eavesdropping devices. Hans Grandit crushed the two eavesdropping devices without hesitation. These bastards, they really have eavesdropping devices. Fortunately, Dayren thought of this a long time ago. When we go to the base, we must check it carefully. Don't leave any eavesdropping devices, bombs or backdoors behind. What a wolf's ambition. I must report this to the military. I will not let such scum go. Zhang Yingying gnashed her teeth in hatred. Colonel Barisi nodded. I think it's best to replace the garrison with our people. I have considered that we can let the reserve troops of the Nebula Knights replace the local garrison to guard here. Training, selecting, and guarding and patrolling at the same time. This is a three-pronged approach. The three quickly reached a consensus on this matter. At this time, Colonel Gu Jiahua came back. Brother Barisi, the problem has been solved. I have asked them to evacuate, and they will all be moved out in about a day. In addition, I have asked them to clean up the sanitation for me, and everything will be restored to its original state. Thank you, Brother Gu. Although Barisi had sentenced him to death in his heart, he still had to keep up appearances. At this time, Colonel Gu Jiahua narrowed his eyes again and said to Barisi, Brother, I have something else to discuss with you. After getting along with each other for this period of time, the few people sitting there understood that when this guy narrowed his eyes, he was up to something bad. Who knows what bad idea he will come up with? Brother, let's be frank. We are all soldiers, and we don't like hypocritical things. Okay, that's straightforward. Gu Jiahua gave a thumbs up. Brother, I'm also considering the safety of our Lingshu star system. Now we are two troops, and the quality of the troops is uneven. This is not conducive to combat command. So what I mean is to bring the two troops under a unified command. This will improve combat effectiveness. What do you think? That's a good idea. Barisi sneered in his heart, but pretended to be thinking on the surface. At this time, Hans Grandit, who pretended to be sober, interrupted. So, which unit will be the leader? This question must be taken seriously. That's what the little brother said. My idea is that your troops are not yet formed, and there is no framework, let alone combat effectiveness. I think it is better for our Lingshu Star garrison to be the leader, and you should cooperate with us in defense work. Zhang Yingying spoke. Colonel Gu is wrong. Although we are short of people for the time being, our combat effectiveness and ability to command battles are not bad. If you take the lead, after a few months, when our personnel are in place and our combat effectiveness is improved, we will have to switch over. By then, the command will have to be disrupted and restarted, and by that time the war may have already begun. Colonel Bercy also nodded. I agree with Lieutenant Colonel Zhang Yingying's opinion. The command of this defense is very important, and it is not suitable to be transferred back and forth. The two sides fought back and forth for several rounds, and neither side wanted to give in. Gu Jiahua has been a local tyrant here for so many years. If he loses the command, losing face is a small matter, and many things cannot be done, and there will be no source of income. For example, the brothel and casino that just moved from Lingshu Star. He plans to use several large spaceships and an abandoned space station to revamp and secretly open it again. If he loses the dominance of the defense of the Lingshu Star system, he knows that Colonel Bercy will sooner or later find this place and force it to close. At this time, Colonel Gu Jiahua had an idea and narrowed his eyes again. How about this, Brother Bercy? Let's not argue with each other. Soldiers respect strength. Let's compete. Whoever wins will get the dominant command of defense. How about it? How do you want to compete? And what do you want to compete? Let's compete in 2 games. The first one is a war game simulation of fleet combat. The combat scene is randomly selected, and 2 out of 3 games are best. The second match was a mecha battle. The war game was played between the staffs of both sides. As for the mecha battle, each side would select a mecha division to fight. Although it was 2 games, we were all soldiers, and I don't think we would argue about who won and who lost. How about the winner taking the lead in the defense of the Lingshu Galaxy? Bercy looked at Zhang Yingying. Zhang Yingying nodded. That night, the 3 of them rested at the Cerberus space station. Colonel Bercy contacted Li Xiaomin, who was on the Augsburg, and asked him to prepare the mecha. The general-purpose Mecha Nebula Knight developed by the Mecha Research Center of the Tang Dynasty Group under the leadership of Li Xiaomin happened to have a prototype on the Augsburg ready to be transported to Lingshu Star for testing. Colonel Bercy had already used this mecha on the simulator and loved it. Chapter 477 War Game Simulation. At this time, early in the morning, after breakfast, the group came to the command center of the Lingshu Star garrison fleet. Both sides entered a combat command room in the command center. Gu Jiahua and Colonel Bercy were ready in the hall of the command center. The large screen of the central control optical computer showed the situation of the war game between the 2 sides. War game deduction, known as the magician directing the war, can make full use of scientific methods such as statistics, probability theory, and game theory to simulate, and deduce the entire process of the war, and study and control the war situation according to the rules of war games. Its innovation and development have always been valued by ancient and modern military strategists. The history of war game deduction can be traced back to 6,500 years ago, when the Chinese on Earth began to use stones and wooden strips to play on the ground, to demonstrate the formation and study the war. The modern type of war chess was invented by von Reiswitz, the Prussian court war advisor in 1811. It consists of a map, a set of hard blocks representing the army, a detailed rulebook, a probability table and a dice. This set of war chess can realistically predict the actual combat activities on the battlefield at that time. Later, with the advancement of information technology, the use of computer systems with fast calculations and accurate data statistics for deduction became the main development direction of wargame deduction. Computer wargame deduction must first make a very accurate assessment of the organizational structure, weapon system, and tactics of the combat troops, and quantify them one by one. Convert them into parameters, and enter them into the computer database. The deduction is carried out by the Combat Command Center, Combat Training Center, and the command post of each combat execution unit, using a complex theater simulation system to input various parameters of the combat parties, simulate the actual combat environment and combat process for several hours or even months, and implement the deduction of major combat readiness issues. After humans entered the space age, due to the high cost of using space warships for actual combat exercises, wargame deduction has become an important means for military staff to train and conduct tactical exercises. In particular, the performance of the current optical computer is fully capable of simulating various elements on the battlefield, and the degree of realism is very high. However, what was beyond Colonel Gujiahua's expectation was that their Lingshu Star Garrison fleet sent a 5-member staff team from the fleet command, while only Zhang Yingying participated from the Nebula Knights. Colonel Gujiahua had a sneer on his face. The 5 staff members under him were carefully selected by him, and they have cooperated with each other for many years, so they are very powerful. Although Gujiahua is greedy, he still has a way of leading troops. Their 5-member staff team once won the championship in the war game simulation held among all the garrisons in the entire southern administrative region. Moreover, he cheated a little here. Although the combat scenes and mission releases are random, these scenes are all from the Lingshu Star region and its surrounding star regions. The 5 of them have long been familiar with this terrain, and things developed as Gujiahua imagined. At the beginning, the battle between the two sides was very fierce. The blue team, where the Lingshu Star garrison was located, quickly suppressed the red team commanded by Zhang Yingying. But soon, Zhang Yingying's red army stabilized its position and launched a counterattack against the opponent. After a tough tug-of-war, Zhang Yingying won a partial victory in 3 hours. Colonel Gujiahua's eyes almost popped out, as if he had seen a ghost. He couldn't imagine such a result. But soon, he asked both sides to start the second round of the game immediately, because war game simulation consumes a lot of mental energy for the commander. Their Lingshu Star staff command team consists of 5 people, who can take turns to rest and remind each other, while Zhang Yingying's side is only 1 person. Long-term high concentration will lead to fatigue and mistakes. However, this time they were wrong again. Zhang Yingying, who was familiar with the relevant terrain and understood the combat habits of the other side's staff team, solved the battle in just 25 minutes. This time, let alone Gujiahua, even Colonel Bercy was very surprised by the command talent of this little girl. The 5-member command team on the opposite side is now in a state of chaos. Their confidence has suffered a serious blow, and their spirits are very tired. More importantly, they have lost trust in their companions. As a result, the blue army was defeated in just 15 minutes in the 3rd game. Gujiahua's face was livid at this time. The war game was the most important thing. If he lost this game, even if he won the mecha battle, it would only save a little face. Even if he gave him the defense leadership, he, Gujiahua, would not have the face to do so. The 5 combat staff walked out of the combat command room dejectedly. They were a little trembling in front of Gujiahua, because they knew the bad temper of the boss in front of them. As expected, you 5, be confined for a week. To summarize why you lost. Yes, sir. The 5 people went to the confinement room to receive the punishment in a dejected manner. Bercy smiled. Brother, do you think we should still have this mecha battle? Of course we should. Winning or losing doesn't matter. The key is to communicate and enhance our mutual understanding. Brother, I'm going to go on the field myself. I've been fighting with my gang of bastards for years. So should we use simulators or actual combat? Of course it's actual combat. Simulators are not suitable for us, said Gujiahua. Okay, then I'll listen to you, brother. I'll also participate in the battle myself. Where shall we compete? Bercy was also eager to try. He also wanted to test the performance of the Nebulan Knight mecha, by the way. Being able to fight with a B-class mecha master is indeed the best way to test. Forget about today. At 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, we will all take a battleship to the position 86, 34, 45, 12,000 kilometers away from here. There is a large space station abandoned due to a fusion reactor explosion accident. How about we compete there? Gujiahua gave a plan. Okay, let's do it. Back on the Augsburg, Hans Grandit finally said what he had been holding back. Colonel Barisi, our Nebulan Knight mecha has not been tested in actual combat yet. Once something goes wrong, it will be too dangerous. You know, this is in space. It's okay, I know what I'm doing. After the simulator test, this is a very successful and technologically mature mecha. Moreover, I have absolute confidence in my technology. Although that Gujiahua is not a good guy, he dare not kill me. He can't bear the responsibility of my death in his hands. Barisi came to the mecha cabin with full confidence. Lysiuman came up to him. Colonel, we have completed the final inspection of the Nebula Knight mecha. The energy is full, and it can be used at any time. Colonel Barisi looked at the mecha in front of him, and there was a hint of fanaticism in his eyes, just like a big pervert seeing a naked beauty. Okay, tomorrow is the day of the Nebula Knight's first battle. Chapter 478 Nebula Knight Mecha. Colonel Barisi and others came to the mecha cabin of the Augsburg. At this time, the verification mecha of the Nebula Knight mecha has been fully equipped and ready to go. The mecha maintenance operation table in front of him is a white painted, very simple in appearance, and even bare. This is not a complete mecha, but the main body of the mecha. The Space Knight mecha adopts a new functional modular design concept. It consists of a mecha main body and several functional modules that adapt to different combat needs. Before each battle, the mecha can choose the functional module of the battle according to the needs of this battle, and it can be replaced within a few minutes during the battle. This also brings great convenience to the supply of the troops, because all functional modules are universal. The main part of the Nebula Knight mecha in front of him is 5 meters high, with strength 25, agility 28, defense 25, and speed 22. Of course, after using the functional modules, the parameters of these mechas will be greatly improved. Although the main part of the mecha is designed very simply, it has a mystery. The main body of the mecha is made of the latest mecha alloy developed by the Tang Dynasty group, which has very high strength. The structural components inside the mecha are all reinforced with special materials, indicating that this is also a fighting mecha. The batteries and engines inside the main body of the Nebula Knight mecha are carefully designed, especially the use of new energy storage battery technology, which makes its endurance 3 times higher than that of ordinary Ranger mecha. Of course, the cost of this main body is as high as 800 million star coins, which is almost the cost of 10 Ranger mechas. Behind the main body of the Nebula mecha are 2 medium-sized white light thrusters and many bayonet ports for quick connection of various functional modules and weapons and equipment. The legs of the mecha have 2 small white light thrusters and 4 micro white light thrusters. Although the use of white light thrusters on general purpose mechas greatly increases the cost of the mecha, on the other hand, it also enables the mecha to have very strong mobility when the functional modules are severely damaged. The only 2 weapon systems on the main body of the mecha are the 2 light energy daggers on its waist and the 4 lancet systems on the chest of the mecha, which can provide the mecha with good melee capabilities. The biggest highlight of the Nebula Knight mecha is its functional modules. These functional modules and their connections with the mecha are protected by armor. In addition, the functional modules are also designed with various blow-light thrusters, weapon systems, alloy shields of various colors, backup power supplies, etc. According to the battlefield use, the functional modules currently developed include air combat in the atmosphere, air combat in outer space, melee sword combat, assault attack, violent output, etc., anti-ship attack, sniper and general functional modules. Now the main part of the mecha has been perfected, but the various functional modules are still under continuous improvement and design. Colonel, what kind of functional module do you plan to use? Li Xiaomin asked. Because some modules are still under improvement and design, the performance may not be very reliable. I'm a little worried about your safety. Colonel Barisi pondered for a moment. How is the design of the close combat sword combat module now? This module is mature, and now it has 3 modes. The close combat sword combat type A functional module uses a large shield and a one-handed alloy sword. The close combat sword combat type B functional module is equipped with 2 small arm guard shields and alloy double swords. The close combat sword combat type C functional module uses a mental shield plus a heavy 2-handed light energy heavy sword. This functional module is mainly used to deal with space battleships. Which one do you want to use? Li Xiaomin gave Colonel Barisi a detailed introduction to the differences between these close combat sword combat modules. Let's use the melee sword combat type B functional module. Okay, Colonel. We'll arrange a test run right away. The next morning, 12,000 kilometers away from the space station, where the Lingshu Starfleet was located, near the 86, 34, and 45 positions, 2 heavy warships slowly approached the abandoned space station. Colonel Barisi was doing the final debugging work in the mecha. At this time, the public communication channel was connected. Colonel Gujayala, who was fully armed, appeared inside. Are you ready, Brother Barisi? Brother, I'm ready, you take it. Well, brother, look at the signal instructions. We agreed in advance that, although it's just a little bit, I won't hold back. I couldn't ask for more. Colonel Barisi was full of confidence. 3 green flares were fired from the opposite battleship, and then a grey-black mecha flew out from the opposite spaceship. It quickly flew to the abandoned space station, trying to occupy a favorable terrain. From the optical imaging system, this is a reinforced Royal Knight mecha that looks very ugly. Generally speaking, only civilian mecha enthusiasts paint their mechas in fancy colors, such as white, gold, royal blue, etc. Whatever is cool. But on the battlefield, especially in space, these colorful mechas are targets. Except for those ace mechas, most military mechas are painted in very low-key and rustic colors such as black, green, gray, khaki, and navy blue, so as to hide their tracks as much as possible. Some people deliberately paint their mechas ugly and look very scary, so as to put psychological pressure on their opponents. The Royal Knight mecha of Colonel Gujiahu on the opposite side is painted in this style. The southern administrative district of the Galactic Empire, the mysterious Lingshu Galaxy. 2 space battleships are parked, face to face outside a space station abandoned due to a nuclear reactor explosion. Colonel Bersi, the commander of the Nebula Knights, and Colonel Gujiahu, the commander of the Lingshu Star Garrison, are fighting mecha battles here. Since the Lingshu Galaxy garrison was completely defeated in the wargame commanded by the fleet, the battle between the two was no longer relevant to the overall situation. It was just a pure face-saving battle. Colonel Gujiahu's enhanced Royal Knight mecha rushed out of the spaceship first. His mecha's exterior paint was very hideous, giving people an uncomfortable feeling, as if facing a hungry ghost. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479, Duel between B-Class Mecha Masters. Nebula Knight 001 enters the catapult, and the launch track is cleared. Zhang Yingying issued an order. Most of the mecha catapults on the original spacecraft were inside the spacecraft, and there were at least dozens of meters of launch tracks, occupying a large amount of space inside the spacecraft. The Augsburg uses the latest trackless electromagnetic catapult device that has been put into use not long ago. I saw a circular cover with a diameter of more than 7 meters on the top of the warship slowly opened, forming a 90-degree angle with the armor plate on the top of the spacecraft. Inside the cover is a huge electromagnetic coil with a very complex structure. Then the Nebula Knight mecha slowly rose from the inside of the spacecraft and stopped 2 or 3 meters in front of the electromagnetic coil inside the cover. Bersi, Nebula Knight mecha, set off. White flames spurted out from behind the Nebula Knight mecha, and at this time the electromagnetic coil behind the mecha also flashed with electric light, and a huge instantaneous thrust suddenly ejected the mecha. With this force, Bersi stepped on the power pedal, and the Nebula Knight mecha ejected, and turned into a white light, and disappeared into space. The Nebula Knight mecha uses functional modules. The whole body is blue, and only a few places on the body can see the white paint of the mecha body. There are 2 large white light thrusters on the back of the mecha. On both sides of the thrusters are 2 pairs of flying wings in an X-shaped step, and the tips of the wings are light energy blades. This greatly improves the speed and maneuverability of the mecha. Because it is a close combat sword battle mode, this functional module is used with a large number of external armor. There are 2 small diamond-shaped shields on the forearms of the mecha, which can not only play a protective role, but also do not affect flexibility. This close combat sword battle B-type mecha uses 2 alloy double swords, and there are 2 spare light energy swords on the back. In order to make up for the problem of insufficient close combat ability, there are external attachment points for alloy swords on the back of the mecha, so that the mecha can use mecha laser rifles to fight. Now Colonel Bersi is like this, holding 2 guns in both hands, searching for the enemy situation nervously, while in the command center of the Augsburg, Li Xiaomin and several other mecha designers are sitting here, watching the various data transmitted by the data link on the big screen. So far, the data of the mecha is normal, so they breathed a sigh of relief. The Nebula Knight mecha slowly approached the abandoned space station. At this moment, a warning suddenly surged in his heart. He stepped on the brake pedal fiercely, and the several small and micro thrusters on the chest and front of the legs of the Nebulan Knight Mecha were fully powered. The Mecha actually did a backflip in space. This action just avoided 3 lasers. The angles of these 3 lasers were very tricky. The second and third lasers were aimed at the Mecha's dodge route. However, it was obvious that Colonel Bass's evasive action was not a regular action. Colonel Gujiahu on the opposite side suddenly had a solemn expression. Colonel Bassi smiled slightly. He hadn't encountered such a powerful opponent for a long time, and the desire to fight in his heart burned like dry wood and raging fire. Gujiahu missed the attack, and the Royal Knight Mecha quickly moved its position. At this time, the Nebulan Knight Mecha was rotating, and 2 lasers sprayed out lasers in the air, forming a circle of fire. The 2 started long-range shooting, one in the air and the other on the ground. Lasers intertwined in the air, and the 2 mechas kept making wonderful evasive moves. The people in the 2 spaceships didn't even dare to breathe, for fear of missing every wonderful picture. Even on the battlefield, the duel between B-class mecha divisions is extremely rare to see. However, the first one who lost his patience was Colonel Gujiahu, because he was moving on the ground of the space station. The range of evasion was relatively small, and the Nebula Knight Mecha was equipped with 2 mecha rifles with more powerful firepower. Gujiahu couldn't hold on any longer. He adjusted the Mecha Knight gun to close combat mode, fully opened the thrusters, and dodged the laser shooting with several evasive moves, quickly closing the distance between the 2 mechas. Seeing this, Colonel Bassi also threw down the Mecha laser rifle, took out 2 Mecha alloy double swords from the external hanging point on the back of the Mecha, and the 2 started a close-range stranglehold and fought together. At this time, in the command center of the Augsburg, Zhang Yingying, Hans Grandet and Li Xiaomin were nervously watching the battle situation in front of them. Yingying, Xiaomin, what's the situation now? Hans asked. He was just an amateur when it came to mecha combat. Zhang Yingying was knowledgeable and Li Xiaomin was a mecha designer, so they had at least some knowledge and judgment. I can see that neither of them tried their best and were still testing. They hadn't used any combat skills yet. At least the 2 were evenly matched on the scene. Colonel Bassi had a little more advantage because he controlled the rhythm very well. Zhang Yingying carefully analyzed the situation on the field. From the parameters of the mecha, the performance of the Nebulan Knight Mecha is very outstanding, even better than the performance of the opponent's privately customized mecha, and now the data feedback shows that the mecha is running very stably. Li Xiaomin said proudly. Look, the combat skills are being used. Holy light cross sword. Gujiahu swung the night gun in his hand, and a huge crossed light blade slashed at the Nebulan Knight Mecha. Colonel Barisi raised his 2 swords in parallel, W and slash. 2 vertical light blades also shot out towards the light blade on the opposite side. In midair, the 4 light blades collided with each other, and the huge energy illuminated the space like a star explosion. The light flashed, and the 2 people's mechas collided again. Now Colonel Gujiahu's situation can be described in one word: step by step. He found that the performance of his personal mecha was not as good as the opponent's mecha. However, if he knew that the mecha on the other side was just a general purpose mecha, he didn't know what he would think. And he found that Colonel Barisi's mecha technology seemed to be higher than his. At the beginning, Colonel Barisi's technology seemed a little rusty and restrained, but as the battle progressed, Colonel Barisi's technology seemed to be getting better and better. Colonel Barisi is now a person of great accumulation, but in terms of mecha, he has not encountered such a strong opponent since he was injured. After slowly adapting to the opponent's rhythm, he seemed to be at ease. In fact, he could have resolved the battle early, but good opponents are rare. Colonel Gujiahu only now realized that he was just a whetstone. Chapter 480 Victory. Galactic Empire, Southern Administrative District, Lingshu Galaxy. Outside a space station abandoned due to a nuclear reactor explosion, Colonel Gujiahu's enhanced Royal Knight Mecha and Colonel Bass's Nebulan Knight Mecha were fighting fiercely. The battle had been going on for more than an hour, and Colonel Gujiahu was completely at a disadvantage, and was now exhausted physically and mentally. At this time, his mecha had sounded a red alarm, and the remaining energy of the mecha was only 10%, while Colonel Bass's Nebulan Knight Mecha also sounded a yellow alarm, and the energy was 30% left. It seems that the performance of the new mecha fuel cell is indeed excellent. Li Xiaoman had to remind Lieutenant Colonel Bessie in the communication to let him pay attention to the time of the battle. At this time, the Royal Knight Mecha suddenly took the opportunity to adjust its posture, holding the Knight gun horizontally, and the thrusters behind it instantly increased to the maximum power. Colonel Bessie immediately understood that this was a desperate rhythm, and it seemed that the mecha of Colonel Gujiahu on the opposite side had little energy left. The thrusters behind the Royal Knight Mecha were fully opened, forming an energy shield visible to the naked eye with the tip of the Knight gun as the center. Dragon drill. The white light thrusters behind the Royal Knight were fully activated, and the mecha rotated at high speed with the Knight's gun as the center, and rushed towards Colonel Baris's mecha. Seeing that the mecha's Knight's gun was about to pierce the Nebula Knight's mecha, the Nebula Knight's mecha did not move. No. Zhang Yingying covered her mouth in disbelief. However, the next second, the Royal Knight's mecha passed through the position where the Nebula Knight's mecha was just now with the Knight's gun, but the expected explosion did not appear. After image. Colonel Gujiahu suddenly had a very bad idea in his mind. The Royal Knight's mecha passed through the after image. The powerful maneuverability of the Nebula Knight's mecha was fully demonstrated. At this time, it had appeared behind the Royal Knight's mecha, and two alloy swords were thrown out and directly pierced into the thrusters on the back of the Royal Knight's mecha. With a loud bang, the Royal Knight's thrusters exploded, and smoke and dust billowed for a while, and basically lost power. At this time, even the energy has reached a critical point. The mecha did not move in space, and only the communication system and life support system were still working. Gujiahu was eclipsed. He knew that his days as a local tyrant here were gone forever. What he had to consider now was to quickly file a transfer report and find another way out with the black money he had made over the years. Colonel Bessie drove the mecha forward, grabbed the arm of the Royal Knight mecha, and returned to the spaceship. Then the two warships returned to the space station. Seeing Colonel Bessie, Gujiahu's face was very ugly. He clasped his fists and bowed. Brother is really powerful. I'm willing to admit defeat. From now on, in this Lingshu galaxy, we will follow the lead of your Nebula Knights. Goodbye. After saying that, he turned and left. The three looked at each other and laughed up to the sky. After bidding farewell to the local garrison, the Nebula fleet finally arrived at the designated location. The diameter of Lingshu star is twice that of the moon, and the gravity environment is similar to that of the moon. The entire Lingshu star has a huge main base and 13 subsidiary bases. 2 of the subsidiary bases are occupied by Colonel Gujiahu. Now the restoration of the main base has come to an end. As soon as they entered the main base, they began to work hard. In the Eastern Administrative District, on the resource satellite No. SE-4305, 3 mechas were desperately fleeing. There were 4 mechas chasing them. There was a shield-shaped logo on the 4 mechas, which represented the Special Operations Force of the Galactic Empire Armed Police, or SSP for short. In the space age, there are always some powerful criminals, who may be powerful warriors or powerful mecha divisions. They commit crimes all over the galaxy. The police and garrison troops in various places are not their opponents at all. If the army is dispatched, the cost will be too high. By the time the army arrives, they have already fled. So the Galactic Military and the Ministry of the Interior jointly established a special department to combat such criminals with strong individual combat capabilities. This is the SSP, Special Operations Force of the Galactic Empire Armed Police. This force selects powerful mecha divisions from the military and civilians of the Galactic Empire, with every 5 mechas as a combat unit. Now the entire SSP has 200 combat units with more than 1000 mechas, hunting down the most dangerous criminals in the galaxy. The 3 people who escaped in front are 3 very arrogant criminals in this starfield. Their small spaceship was destroyed by the SSP in the first time, and the remaining 3 brothers drove the mecha to escape. These 3 are all D-level mecha masters, but the people chasing them are also D-level mecha masters. Suddenly, a red dot appeared on the screen in front of them, and a silver-white Royal Knight mecha blocked their way. The shoulder of this mecha is a striking SSP logo. Brother, what should we do? One of the criminals asked. What should we do? Cold. Where are your balls? Fuck him. Yes, brother is right. Fuck him. Get him. The 3 mechas rushed towards the Royal Knight mecha in front of them. Suddenly, the Royal Knight mecha moved, and it actually rushed straight towards the brothers. And the mecha suddenly lit up with a dazzling white light. My eyes, I can't see. The sudden white light caused several of them to be temporarily blinded. Although it was only a short second, this second was enough to be fatal on the battlefield. A huge V-shaped white light blade crossed the space, passing through the 3 mechas, and 3 sparks exploded in the sky. This is exactly the Mecha Master's trick, the Sword of Victory. The target has been confirmed to be dead. The mission is completed. All SSP members return home. This Royal Knight mecha seemed to be the captain's machine, and he gave the order. The SSP's small spaceship is a specially made large Sparrow class small spaceship. It is slightly larger than the average small spaceship, has no cargo hold, and has 6 mecha holds. This Sparrow class is a little bigger than the average small spaceship, but it is equipped with a more powerful engine and thruster, which gives it better endurance and speed, suitable for independently pursuing criminals in space. Chapter 481 Lo and Basingwa. The mechas of this SSP team all returned to the small spaceship. It seems that this operation was very smooth. The Mecha Masters got off the mechas one after another. Oi, the headquarters has an order for you. Come and take a look. The captain of the spaceship, who is also the commander of this team, said to the Mecha Master. This Mecha Master is Luo Wei, who was once the top brother of the Imperial Military Command Academy. His grandfather is one of the Guardian Knights of the Galactic Empire, Knight Luo Tong. Luo Wei is a student of the Royal Military Academy, and is known as the top brother of the Royal Military Academy. He used to be arrogant and domineering in the military academy, and he also had improper thoughts about the 2 princesses. As a result, he was completely defeated by Xia Xingchen in the mecha design and fighting competition of the Xia Xingchen Military Academy. Luo Wei was discouraged and almost committed suicide. He was awakened by a scolding from his grandfather. In order to train himself, he concealed his family background and went to the frontline troops on the border to fight against star pirates. Later, there were fewer and fewer star pirates. Luo Wei felt that it was difficult to get any training opportunities in the border troops, so he applied to join the SSP. In the more than 1 year at SSP, he participated in many dangerous pursuit operations and destroyed a total of thousands of mechas of various colors. Moreover, he did not contact his family during this year, relying entirely on his own strength. Now, he has the rank of Major and has grown into a SEAL level mecha division. Lo took the reader from the captain and read the order on it. This is an order from the Galactic Empire military. The general content is to recruit elite mecha divisions from the entire Galactic Empire army and civilians to form an elite mecha division force. The 7th Fleet provided the Galactic Empire military with a list of mecha divisions that meet this requirement, including the 26-year-old SEAL level mecha division Lo. Lo frowned. I don't want to go. I don't have time to show off there. I just want to participate in more battles and become stronger as soon as possible. Now, except for our SSP, no other unit has so many actual combat opportunities. Lo now has a sense of urgency in his heart. If it was said that he lost to Xia Xingchen 2 years ago because he underestimated his opponent, but now, when he saw Xia Xingchen slashing mechas with swords and killing people in the Northern Empire, Lo realized that the gap between him and Xia Xingchen had become larger and larger. Alas, it's a pity to miss this opportunity. The captain felt sorry for Lo, but he also knew his character. Once he made up his mind, no one could change it. At this time, the personal terminal in Lo's hand rang, and he received a message, which immediately caused a wave of ups and downs in his heart. It was a message from his grandfather, the S-Class Mecha Master Knight Luo Tong, who once loved him the most. For more than 2 years, the grandfather and grandson had no contact. Lo held his breath in his heart, and he had to make a name for himself to show his grandfather. And the sender of this message in front of him was his grandfather. His hands trembled, and he clicked on the message with trepidation. There were only a few words on it. If you want to become stronger and surpass Xia Xingchen, you must go to the Nebula Knights. Knight Luo Tong's words hit the softest part of Lo's heart. He immediately made up his mind. Captain, I have decided to participate in this selection. Thank you for your care over the past year. The captain nodded with satisfaction. Other teammates also came to say goodbye to him. In the southwest of the Western Administrative Region of the Galactic Empire, a task force consisting of 3 large battleships and 10 medium-sized battleships is clearing out a border planet occupied by alien bugs. This planet is located in the southwest border of the Western Administrative Region. It has been discovered for less than 20 years and has good mineral resources on the planet. However, humans soon discovered that there are dozens of large and violent alien creatures on the planet. All humans who have established settlements on it have become food. So the 7th Fleet was forced to send a fleet to clear out. Basingwa is a giant man who is over 2 meters tall. He is full of strong muscles and scars. His hair is short but messy. He never goes to the barber shop. He cuts it himself with a knife. This guy's limbs are all armed prostheses, all products of Dr. Leela's clinic. Although Dr. Leela has gone to the headquarters of the Yazi, his business is still managed by his students, and his clinic is also one of the important sources of income for the Yazi organization. Basingwa, 33 years old this year, is a black and white mixed race, with dark brown skin, yellow eyes, and a tyrannical light in his eyes. He is a SEAL-level mecha division, driving a violent bare land combat melee heavy mecha. He rushes to the front in every battle, which is why his limbs are broken and scarred. But he doesn't care. Fighting seems to be the only pleasure in his life and the meaning of his survival. This guy has almost no hobbies. He spends all his money on mechas, armed prostheses and drinking, and even his military merits are used on these things, so that he is still a lieutenant. Another fierce battle is over. The battle on this planet is nearing its end. The bugs have basically been killed, but he was sanctioned again for disobeying military orders. This time, he was asked to report to the temporary headquarters of the 7th Fleet on the RR-18 satellite. Lieutenant Basingwa had a bad habit. He often entered a state of selflessness when fighting. He rushed to the front alone in every battle, and was the last one to retreat every time. Even when the energy and ammunition of the mecha were used up, he actually jumped out of the mecha and continued to fight with weapons such as rocket launchers and machine guns. This is also the reason why all his limbs were broken. He was demoted for repeatedly disobeying the order to retreat. Otherwise, with his ability and military exploits, he would have been a lieutenant colonel or even a colonel. 4 months ago, he lost his left arm. However, after completing another prosthetic installation, this guy violated the military order to recuperate and stand by on Chang'an Star again, and quietly returned to the frontline troops to continue to participate in the battle. As a result, now, the military court of the 1st Fleet of the Galaxy issued an order for him to go to the 7th Fleet Command to wait for processing. The journey from this border planet to Rostar took the military's small high-speed spacecraft a full 20 days. These days, he was drinking every day, almost soaking himself in wine, drinking when awake, getting drunk, and sleeping when drunk. The other crew members were thankful that this guy didn't cause any trouble, even when he was drunk, and he just slept soundly with his bare chest. The captain's only concern was that this guy's room was full of alcohol, and he even wondered if the room would catch fire if there was an electric spark. Chapter 482 Arriving at the base. After getting off the spaceship, Basingwa was splashed with water by soldiers from the military discipline department. After he woke up, they took him to the office building of the base. But unexpectedly, the place they went to was not the military discipline department of the 7th Fleet, which he was very familiar with, but the office of the commander of the 7th Fleet. Basingwa suddenly woke up. Originally, he was planning to play tricks and non-violent non-cooperation. No matter how he was punished, as long as he was not allowed to leave the frontline troops, it would be fine. But now it is obviously not the right situation. Report. Lieutenant Basingwa is here to report. He was respectful to Admiral Guayu, who was sitting at his desk and reviewing documents. The 55-year-old admiral had made great achievements in battle and was a genuine S-class mecha master. For a war maniac like Basingwa, he admired these strong men very much. General Guayu looked up and was furious when he saw him. "You bastard, this is the 17th time you have violated military orders. You know, the military court suspects that I have traded money and power with you, and they are about to investigate me. Now I have to deal with you seriously." Basingwa has made great achievements in the war, but he is also a big troublemaker. General Guayu has seen him 7 or 8 times, so he is very familiar with him. He knows that he is a tough guy. But according to the general's punishment, I violated military discipline. You can punish me in any way, as long as you let me continue to fight on the front line, even if I'm a soldier. He is already familiar with military discipline punishment. He knows that the attitude of admitting mistakes must be good, so that it will be easier to make the same mistake next time. Is it useful to punish you for not changing your ways after repeated admonitions? But I don't need to punish you anymore. According to the Galactic Empire Disabled Soldiers Compulsory Retirement Standards, you have broken all 4 limbs, which has triggered the Compulsory Retirement Standards. Now, according to the regulations, I regret to tell you that you must retire. Lieutenant Basingwa, thank you for your contribution to the 7th Fleet over the years. I will give you special rewards according to your contribution, so that you will not be sad when you retire. Bang! Basingwa actually knelt on the ground, and his mechanical prosthesis hit the ground heavily. General, please give me a chance. Even if I die on the battlefield, I don't want to retire. I only know how to fight in my life. If I leave the army, what will I do? What is the meaning of my life? No point in saying more. Admiral Guayu frowned. General, the Iron Man who would not make a sound, even if his limbs were broken, actually shed 2 lines of hot tears. As the saying goes, men don't shed tears easily. His action made the adjutant standing in the room have red eyes and sour noses. Admiral Guayu was also upset, and he was reluctant to part with this brave general. In fact, for him and his troops, Basingwa's disobedience to military orders was nothing. It was actually a reflection of the high morale and bravery of the troops. However, the standards for the compulsory retirement of disabled soldiers in the Galactic Empire was a high voltage line, and no combat unit could touch it unless approved by the Imperial Military Department. Because there were too many such soldiers, it was a very cruel thing to let them continue to fight on the battlefield. No one could stop this. Admiral Guayu, who was in trouble, suddenly saw a document on the desk and had an idea. He asked his adjutant to make a copy of the document and handed it to Basingwa, who was kneeling on the ground. Lieutenant Basingwa, now you have a chance. We will keep your military status for 1 month. If you can pass this selection test, you can continue to stay in the army. They are a special force with privileges. Basingwa snatched the document from the adjutant and then kowtowed on the ground. Thank you, General, for giving me this opportunity. After leaving Admiral Guayu's office and coming to the temporary residence arranged for him, he couldn't wait to open the document. Notice on the establishment of the Nebula Knights and the recruitment of young elite pilots throughout the army. 20 days later, Lingshu Galaxy, Lingshu Star Underground Base, Nebula Knights headquarters. After a period of intensive work, the headquarters of the Nebula Knights has been initially put into use. Mecha warehouses, spacecraft maintenance plants, combat command centers, training grounds, dormitories, and central control optical computers and other facilities have all been put into use. Lingui No. 1 Synchronous Orbital Space Station has also been put into use, which can berth 500 warships of various types at the same time. Today, the second batch of 20 Ra-class medium-sized high-speed mecha cruisers and 10 large transport ships arrived here. Along with the warships, there are also 500 Nebula Knight mechas and related mecha functional modules. In addition, there is a large passenger spaceship in the fleet that is very eye-catching. There are more than 2,000 technicians and more than 1,000 infantry from the Tang Dynasty Group and Krupp Industrial Group on it. There are also several elite mecha divisions. They are the first batch of young mecha divisions selected, all of which are sea-level mecha divisions. In the selection criteria of the Nebula Knights, young mecha divisions under the age of 35 who are qualified as sea-level mecha divisions can be directly selected for the Nebula Knights after a simple re-examination. This re-examination is to simulate mecha battles with universal mechas. If you can still maintain the level of a sea-level mecha division, you will pass. This excludes those who rely on the performance of mechas or relationships or luck to get through. On the spacecraft, these mecha divisions stayed in their cabins. They met in the Southern Cross star system. Together, they arrived at the headquarters of the Nebula Knights on Lingshu Star. After getting off the spaceship, the ground staff immediately arranged for them to stay in the dormitory. A few people then realized that there were only 5 mecha divisions here. After settling the mecha divisions, the ground staff took the 5 of them on a simple tour of the base. They were very satisfied with the facilities of the base, especially when they came to the mecha warehouse and saw their mechas. Their eyes lit up. This handsome looking mecha has excellent performance, even surpassing the performance of many elite mecha divisions' private mechas. They wanted to get into the cockpit and drive the mechas, but they were first taken into a conference room. Not long after, 3 officers walked in from outside. The 5 people stood up and saluted. Seeing Colonel Bessie walking in front, 2 of the 5 mecha divisions actually trembled with excitement. Colonel Bessie looked at the 2 people and felt vaguely familiar. Chapter 483 Elite Mecha Masters. From now on, everyone sitting here is a comrade in arms. Let's introduce ourselves first and get to know each other better. I'm Bessie, the Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Nebula Knights. The middle-aged man with the rank of Colonel said. I'm Xia Xingchen, the Fleet Commander and Combat Commander of the Nebula Knights. Xia Xingchen said. Her youth surprised several people. Of course, except for Lo. He knew how powerful this little princess of the First Fleet was. I'm Hans Grandert, the Commander-in-Chief Logistics Officer of the Lingshu Nebula Knights base. It must be said that this fat man with a big belly really looks like a logistics officer. After the 3 officers introduced themselves, it was the turn of several C-class mecha divisions to introduce themselves. Lo spoke first, because he was a major and had the highest rank here. This is also a convention in the army. When introducing yourself, or taking turns to do something, start with the person with the highest rank. My name is Lo. I'm 26 years old, and I'm from the SSP, the Special Operations Force of the Galactic Empire Armed Police. I'm good at close combat with mechas. Please take care of me. The second person to speak was the tall black mixed race man whose appearance gave people a lot of pressure. He has the rank of lieutenant. My name is Basingwa, from the 1st Combined Assault Brigade of the 7th Fleet of the Galaxy. I'm 33 years old this year. I don't have any other abilities, but I'm not afraid of death. You don't have to worry about me in future battles. I will definitely rush to the front during the attack, and I will cover the retreat. I'm an easy person to get along with. As long as you let me participate in the battle, I will do anything. The third person to speak was a handsome white man with a neat and short blonde hair. But he wore red glasses. These soldiers all knew that they were fake eyes. His rank was 2nd Lieutenant. My name is Perlo. I'm 28 years old, and I'm from the 06th Mecha Squad of the Overwatch Star Quicksand base. I was once discharged due to injury, and now I'm back in active service. I'm a sniper. Just give me a sniper rifle, and I'll become the enemy's nightmare. Colonel Bessie, I'm Perlo back. Colonel Bessie's eyes suddenly showed the image of a handsome guy with blonde hair, blue eyes, long flowing hair and an unruly manner. This is exactly the talented and troublemaking sniper under his command. I didn't expect that he had changed so much over the years, especially his temperament. He has completely become another person. Of course, there are also his eyes. Colonel Bessie's eyes were a little wet. Lieutenant Perlo, welcome back to the team. The next person to be introduced was also a lieutenant. He was not tall, but gave people a very capable feeling. Haji, I'm 27 years old, and from the 06th Mecha Squadron of the Watching Star Quicksand base. I'm good at tactical support and on-site combat command. I'm Perlo's comrade in arms, and I was also a soldier under Colonel Bessie. Colonel, I'm back with a team too. Welcome back, the conspirator on the battlefield. Colonel Bessie had already recognized Haji and called out his nickname. He was very clear about the abilities of these 2 people, and with the assistance of these 2 people, his work would be easier. It turned out that the base and various tasks of the Jaozi organization had been put on the right track, and a large number of talents had been recruited. Haji and Perlo both felt that they could not continue to play a greater role if they stayed there. At this time, General von Klausch sent the information that the Galactic Empire was going to form the Nebula Knights. Hearing that the leader was Xia Xingchen, the 2 immediately wanted to help. They had worked hard in the Jaozi base for the past few years, and their strength had leaped forward, and they easily passed the selection exam for the Nebula Knights. Since the rank of both of them was lieutenant when they were discharged, according to the Galactic Empire military rank management regulations, the rank of retired soldiers who re-enlisted will be reduced by 1 level according to their rank before discharge. so they are both second lieutenants now. The last person to introduce himself was a girl. This girl is only 1.6 meters tall, with chestnut shoulder-length hair with natural waves. Her eyes are green, like a sexy cat, and her thick red lips can arouse men's reverie. This is an excellent beauty, but her rank is only corporal. My name is Scarlett. I'm 22 years old this year, and I just joined the army. As for what I'm good at, I'm best at mecha driving. My friends have called me the big sister since I was a child. I was born to be the boss. Her introduction caused everyone to laugh. But there is one thing Scarlett said is right. She has been a female devil since she was a child, and also a female gangster leader. Scarlett's grandfather is also an S-class mecha master in the galaxy, but he is an independent mecha master and does not work for any force. Their families all come from a planet in the Eastern Administrative District. Scarlett has been learning martial arts and mecha driving from her grandfather since she was a child. Her talent makes the boys in the family feel inferior. Under the careful training of her grandfather, Scarlett's strength has grown rapidly. This has also cultivated her more domineering character, and her character is very similar to that of a boy, and she is very loyal. She is good at fighting, has a strong family background, and is beautiful and loyal. She became the leader of the local young people, and made the whole planet a mess. In order to make this granddaughter concentrate, Scarlett's grandfather racked his brains, but failed to control this little devil. However, when he learned about the formation of the Knights, he was surprised, so he used provocation to anger her. Scarlett angrily participated in the assessment of the Galaxy Knights. Finally, she stood out from it. Colonel Bassi introduced the purpose and mission of the establishment of the Galaxy Knights and the situation of their opponent, the Snow Demon Knights. Then, he looked at the 5 people in front of him kindly. They were all elite soldiers. That's the specific situation. Do you have any other questions? Scarlett suddenly asked. Excuse me, Colonel Bassi, you are the deputy commander of the Nebula Knights. So, who is the commander of our knights? Why didn't he show up? Your commander is the top secret of this unit. Please keep it confidential. The confidentiality system of the Empire and the confidentiality regulations of the army are not a joke. Colonel Bass's expression suddenly became serious. Except for Haji and Perlo, the other mecha divisions sat up straight and got alert, wanting to know who the big shot was. Speaking of your commander, he is not very old, about the same age as Scarlett. Hearing this, Luo Tong fell into deep thought, and Scarlett widened her eyes. She didn't expect it to be such a result. Only the heartless Basingwa muttered, isn't he the second generation descendant of that family? I should have known not to come. He doesn't even show his face, and he's so arrogant. Bassi smiled, as the saying goes, a man of ambition is not old. I know you may not accept it, how can you be willing to be ridden on by a young man? But I tell you, your commander has no family background. He and his father were even minors before. Scarlett and Basingwa immediately became interested. They were eager to know who the commander was. The commander of our Nebula Knights is the Guardian Knight of Princess Crossing of the Galactic Empire, Brigadier General Xia Xingchen. Bassi gave the answer. Chapter 484, Nebula Knights Arrangement. In the underground base of the headquarters of the Nebula Knights, in the ghostly galaxy Lingshu Star in the southern administrative region of the Galactic Empire, the base commander Colonel Bassi and several other staff members met with the first batch of 5 C-level elite mecha divisions selected by the Nebula Knights, including Lo, Basingwa, Perlo, Haji and the Little Witch Scarlett. After introducing the original intention of the formation of the Nebula Knights and the specific situation of their opponent, the Snow Demon Knights, they entered the free question session. Scarlett suddenly asked who the commander of the Nebula Knights was. When Colonel Bassi told them the answer, everyone had different ideas in their hearts. At this time, Lo felt very uncomfortable, because he knew that the gap between him and Xia Xingchen might be further widened, but he did not regret it, because joining the Nebula Knights was his only chance to make rapid progress. Basingwa felt extremely excited. Xia Xingchen was so young, but not unattainable. He suddenly had the urge to compete with Xia Xingchen. And the thoughts in the mind of Scarlett, the eldest lady, were even more complicated. On the one hand, she was very dissatisfied with Xia Xingchen. They were of similar age, and she believed that she could do what Xia Xingchen could do. On the other hand, She had always been very interested in Xia Xingchen. But she didn't realize that once a woman began to be interested in a man, she might fall in love with him. This is a very dangerous signal. However, the reactions of Haji and Polo next to them surprised others. I didn't expect Xia Xingchen to be so powerful. He is now more powerful than Bercy, Haji said with emotion. Yes, have you forgotten that he drove wrench number 1 to make trouble at the quicksand base? This kid is not an ordinary person. He is not quiet wherever he goes, Polo replied. Basingler asked in surprise, you two, although I often violate military discipline, is it really okay for you two to directly discuss a highest command like you two? Lo and Scarlett also looked at the two curiously. This, Haji also felt a little abrupt. It was Polo who helped him out. It's like this. Brigadier General Xia Xingchen was also a member of the 06th Mecha Squadron of the Quicksand base of our Watchstar garrison 3 years ago. We are all soldiers under Colonel Bercy. That unit has been on the front line of combat all year round, especially after Xia Xingchen came. Because of his outstanding mecha modification and maintenance capabilities, the combat level of the entire base has been greatly improved. I really miss those days and those comrades who died. Speaking of this, Polo's expression was a little lonely. The conference room fell into a dead silence. Xia Xingchen is a special guy. Don't compare yourself with him. He is not an ordinary human being. You will feel inferior if you always compare yourself with him. Colonel Bercy interrupted everyone's thoughts. Let's talk about your arrangements. The 5 of you are the first batch of elite mecha divisions of our Nebula Knights, and you are all sea level mecha divisions. The next batch of mecha divisions will arrive in half a month. You should use this time to familiarize yourself with your mecha as soon as possible. I will first establish 5 mecha combat battalions, each with 100 mechas, and the 5 of you will be the captains of the first 5 mecha battalions. However, this captain is only temporary. As long as someone under you is more capable than you will be replaced at any time, unless you can become stronger. Although this is a bit inhumane, this is the rule of our Nebula Knights. Do you understand? Yes, sir, we understand. Colonel Bercy continued, while you are familiar with the mechas, the 5 of you must also run in with each other and form an elite combat team to respond to emergencies at any time. Now even if there are only 5 of us, we must be ready for combat at any time. I will assign the tasks first. Lo, you have the highest rank, and you will be the leader of this elite team temporarily. Basingler is a heavy assaulter, Lo is a close combat main attacker, Polo is the main sniper, Haji is a deputy sniper and tactical commander, and Scarlett is responsible for heavy firepower support. Our mission is very heavy. We must form a preliminary combat capability within half a year, and from now on, we must be ready to go to the battlefield at any time. I hope you can seize the time. Yes, sir. Any more questions? Report to the sir. Can we use our private mechas and mecha weapons? Scarlett asked again. She has been driving a private customized mecha since she was a child and has been using the military's general mechas for the assessment in recent times. This is like a person who has been driving a top luxury car and suddenly giving him a small displacement mini car, which must drive him crazy. Scarlett has always been resentful about this matter. Regarding the issue of private mechas, you can use them, but not now. Only when all the mecha combat units of our Nebula Knights are full, the 10 best mecha divisions will be qualified to use private mechas. You are all elite mecha divisions, and most of you have private mechas. If you are allowed to use them now, and this precedent is set, everyone will ask to use private mechas, which will bring disaster to the command, running in and logistics supply of our troops. However, some special melee weapons, or sniper rifles and other specialized weapons are still allowed to be used after approval. In addition, I want to tell you that the performance of our Nebula Knight mecha is even higher than most people's personal mecha. I can guarantee that you will love it. Yes, sir, I understand. Time came to the end of July 2020. Xia Xingchen and his party drove the small spacecrafts Count Dracula and Evil Mind all the way north, crossed the entire Siberian galaxy, and crossed the wormhole again to the Sakhalin starfield, and were about to reach the core of In Galaxy. Along the way, they traveled non-stop and hardly stopped. The spacecraft driving work was handed over to Julian and Carlos, and Captain B also was in charge. Everyone else was in the mecha simulation cabin, conducting mecha adaptability training and 3-person mecha formation combat training. Among them, Brunswick, Rusvan and Elisa formed a combat team. Xia Xingchen, Yugo and Miyamoto Kenichi formed a combat team. Nina, the 3 Space Knight mechas controlled by Colossus and Keela formed a 5-person combat team. This 5-man combat team was formed entirely to cooperate with the Thor's Wings mecha with superior melee combat capabilities. Nina was responsible for charging, and the 3 modified Space Knight mechas controlled by Colossus were responsible for long-range saturation strikes. Keela's mecha sniping skills were also good, and he was responsible for shooting from the side. What made Xia Xingchen feel uneasy was that he found that the entire Siberian galaxy was under heavy guard, and the warships stockpiled by the Northern Empire here were simply densely packed. From the positioning and statistics of these spacecraft on the local area network of Siberia that Carlos invaded for a week, they and the Galactic Empire's estimate of the military strength of the Northern Empire was still too conservative. This intelligence was sent to the Galactic Empire by Colossus at the first time, which scared the Imperial military. Moreover, during this month, Carlos was not idle at all. He captured a large number of large optical computers in the Baku starfield and the Siberian starfield as broilers, to help him continue to capture and control more main control optical computers and servers. He created a low-level artificial intelligence, Robot 2, in the central optical computer of Blossoms, and another low-level artificial intelligence, Robot 3, in the central optical computer of Siberian University, the largest university in the Northern Empire. In this way, even if he was without a land signal, he could monitor and control the Northern Empire's network at all times. The greater gain was that through Robot 1's unremitting efforts day and night, he finally found a way to contact the Galactic Empire. Chapter 485. Carlos shows his power. Xia Xingchen and his team rushed to the core of Galaxy without stopping. Carlos was not idle. Through his clone, Robot Number 1, a low-level artificial intelligence, who was left in the Skynet of the Galactic Empire, he finally found a way to get in touch with the inside of the Galactic Empire after a month of unremitting efforts. In the past month, Robot Number 1 scanned 24 secret ports that sent data information from the Galactic Empire to the Northern Empire. These ports are very secretive and are only opened quietly when intelligence needs to be sent. Carlos took control of all these ports without hesitation. After Xia Xingchen's consent, the users of these ports were revealed to Dayren. The intelligence department of the Galactic Empire did not arrest them, but secretly monitored them all. The intelligence personnel who had been exposed had no use. Temporarily spare their lives, so that Robot Number 1 can continue to use these ports to send information to the north. According to the instructions from Xia Xingchen, Dayren established a secret mailbox in Skynet. If someone from the Galactic Empire wants to contact Xia Xingchen, they can put the relevant information in this mailbox, and Robot Number 1 will pass the information to Carlos of the Northern Empire. This is safe, and will not expose Xia Xingchen's true coordinates. The size of Korovin is about the same as that of the Earth, but the Korovin space station is a behemoth, about 1/3 the size of Korovin. There are huge storage and logistic spaces on more than 50 satellites and artificial celestial bodies in the galaxy. Xia Xingchen and others were stunned, and even the knowledgeable Captain Bielsa was stunned. If the busiest airspace in the Milky Way is the Chang'an Galaxy and the Shianyuan Galaxy, then the Korovin Galaxy is not much behind. From this, the military strength and comprehensive strength of the Northern Empire can be seen. From this point of view, it is really difficult for the Galactic Empire to win the war without paying a big price. A berth that can dock to spacecraft was rented, and the Count Dracula and the Evil Thought stocked one after another. Julian and Captain Bielsa quickly arranged robots to carry out supply work. Carlos has handed over the authority of some robots on the spacecraft to the two. Carlos's current task is to scan the large central optical computer and server near the core of planet with all his strength, and place a clone, Robot 4, a low-level artificial intelligence. However, the only thing worth praising is that for the convenience of management, everything here is coordinated by the central optical computer, and the efficiency of buying and selling goods is much higher than that of Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk. When Collis posted the news that they had more than 30,000 mecha optical computers with ultra high voltage memory sticks on the internet, a quartermaster affiliated with the General Logistics Department of the Northern Empire quickly contacted them. At this time, in the core of In-Galaxy Military Supplies Dispatch Command Center, Lieutenant General Victor was commanding his men to work in high spirits. He has been in this position for more than 10 years, and he has never been so happy as he is now. In the past, the core of In family had the final say here. He had to give priority to the interests of the core of In family in any decision he made, and he had to act according to their mood. This resulted in inefficient material allocation and waste of resources. Often, because of accommodating the interests of the core of In family, the higher authorities were dissatisfied, and the Imperial Military Department hit him instead of the core of In family. And although his position was a lucrative one, because of the core of In family, most of the benefits and grey income went into the core of In family's pockets. But now it's good. The core of In family is finished. He finally became the boss here. Now the material turnover rate of the entire core of In-Galaxy has increased by 12%, and the Northern Empire military has also issued a commendation order. However, the pressure of material allocation in the entire core of In-Galaxy is still very high, mainly because some strategic materials are in short supply, which cannot be solved by allocation. At this time, Lieutenant General Victor's adjutant came to report that a smuggling spacecraft from the Galactic Empire brought more than 30,000 ultra-high voltage memory sticks for mecha optical computers. This thing is in short supply now. Although Northern Heavy Industries can also produce this product, due to the lack of several important minerals, the products of Northern Heavy Industries are not only expensive, but also have much worse performance and unstable quality. The private mechas of the high-ranking military officials of the Northern Empire and the mechas of the Snow Demon Knights do not use the ultra-high voltage memory sticks for the mecha optical computers of Northern Heavy Industries. However, the high-quality ultra-high voltage memory sticks for the mecha optical computers produced by Krupp Group and Tang Dynasty Group have become hot commodities. In the entire Galactic Empire, the memory stick that originally cost 5 million star coins has now been sold for 30 million star coins on the black market of the entire Northern Empire. With the development of the war and the strengthening of the border blockade by the Galactic Empire, a large number of smugglers have encountered accidents on the road, and now the important strategic materials that can reach the north are becoming less and less. The more than 30,000 ultra-high voltage memory sticks for the mecha optical computers in front of him are definitely a huge political achievement, which makes Victor very excited. But soon he thought of another problem, that is, the problem of funds. If he purchases them at the market price of 30 million star coins, he will have to prepare more than 900 billion star coins. This is not a small amount. The more important problem is that he is still thinking about making a fortune on this. Who are these people? Victor asked the adjutant. If they are a group of ordinary smugglers without any backing, just kill them directly. These benefits are enough for him to trample on any law. Report to the general. This is a second-generation ancestor from the Galactic Empire. His uncle is an S-class mecha master from Chang'an Star. Their family has a very good relationship with the Tang Dynasty Group. It is said that his uncle treats him like his own son. This kid is likely to be the illegitimate son of that S-class mecha master. Victor frowned. S-class mecha masters are not easy to mess with. If you offend them, you will really die without a burial place. Even the Northern Empire military cannot protect him, including the S-class mecha masters of the Northern Empire. They can't care about this matter. After all, you have attacked someone's family. Although S-class mecha masters are proud of their status and will not easily attack ordinary people, it is natural to avenge their families. Even other S-class mecha masters will help their companions to avenge. This is definitely a headache. How about this? You go and arrange for them to pick up the goods at our secret berth, and I'll go meet this guy. I'm pretty good at judging people. If he's just pretending, then kill him. If he really has a master protecting him, then I'll have to negotiate the price. Yes, General. I'll arrange it right away. The adjutant replied. They agreed on a time and asked Xia Xingchen and others to deliver the goods to a dock belonging to the Northern Empire military. The second evil and Count Dracula went together. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486, Lieutenant General Victor. The military dock was heavily guarded. There were a large number of personnel, soldiers, and transport vehicles on the dock. 10 snow sculpture mechas were here to protect the safety of the dock berths and personnel. The snow sculpture mecha was the main air combat mecha of the Northern Empire. This mecha has only been in service for more than 10 years, and is the mecha second only to the Ice Wolf in the Northern Empire. There were dozens of spaceships patrolling outside the dock, but according to Carlos' analysis, several of them were confusing the line of sight. The remaining spaceships actually formed an offensive formation. It looked messy on the surface, but these spaceships could complete the battle assembly within 1 or 2 minutes. Carlos and Xia Xingchen had foreseen this situation long ago. The corruption and greed of the Northern Empire's army were well known throughout the galaxy. In the face of such a huge benefit, it was impossible for them not to be tempted. In fact, when Xia Xingchen left, he only brought 5,000 ultra-high voltage memory sticks for the mecha optical computers. But along the way, they were constantly attacked by other smugglers, so they kept stealing from each other, and accumulated more than 30,000. If these good things were given to the Northern Empire, even if they were sold to them at a high price, it would be considered aiding the enemy. So Xia Xingchen originally planned to do a little trick on it, so that the memory stick would fail, after running for 100 hours. This would make the Northern Empire's mechas fail during use. However, with the advanced artificial intelligence Carlos, they had a better choice. Carlos added many backdoors to the underlying code of the memory stick. With these backdoors, they can do a lot of things. First, through these backdoors, Carlos can easily lock the location of these mechas and their troops through the Northern Empire's local area network. Even if the mechas are cut off from the local area network, they can secretly connect to the local area network through these backdoors hidden in the memory, and transmit data to the outside. Second, Carlos can use these backdoors to invade the central control optical computer of the mecha, and then invade the military network through the data link, thereby invading the optical computers of the bases and fleets related to the military network. Third, as long as Carlos has a thought, he will paralyze these mechas, self-destruct or even kill each other. It was really sinister and vicious. The spaceship was connected to the dock, and the cargo channel had been connected. The first to open the hatch was the evil mind, and 4 modified and very scary ranger mechas came down from it. These 4 mechas were controlled by robots, and they pushed the huge containers down from the spaceship together. The next to open the hatch was the Count Dracula, the Terami Warrior Mecha, the Cloud Swordsman Mecha, the Silver Demon Mecha, the Left Hand Demon Mecha and the Fear Demon Mecha came out one after another. Looking at the battle in front of him, Lieutenant General Victor on the dock was a little dumbfounded. It was obvious that these mechas were not easy to deal with, especially the 3 mechas at the back. You can tell that they are nuclear mechas by looking at the equipment. Now Victor completely lost the idea of killing people and robbing. These are nuclear mechas, 3 at a time, which is not something that ordinary people can own. Besides, once the 3 nuclear mechas explode in the space station, Lieutenant General Victor will be killed. What he didn't know was that Nina's Thor's wing mecha was still on standby on the spaceship. Then several more containers were transported from the mecha from the Count Dracula to the deck. After unloading the cargo, 3 people walked down from the spaceship. The 2 young men were in the lead, followed by a man with full body mechanical prosthesis and a female Terami guard. One of the young men was very polite and took the initiative to extend his hand to greet him. "Hello, may I know your name, General?" Most people would either be so scared that their calves would tremble when they saw a senior military general, or nod and bow to curry favor with him. But the young man in front of him didn't seem to be afraid. He was neither humble nor arrogant, and was polite and courteous. There was nothing wrong with him at all. Victor knew he had met a master. "Hello, young man. I'm Lieutenant General Victor, the commander of the Corps of Install Logistics Base of the Northern Empire and the Chief Logistics Officer of the Logistics Department. Welcome to your arrival. The supplies you bring can bring great help to our Northern Empire. We will not treat you unfairly. What's your name, little brother?" You seem to be less than 30 years old, Victor said with a smile. He looked kind. Seeing this, no one would have thought that he was still planning how to kill and rob the day before. General, you are too polite. I'm very honored to meet you. I'm even more flattered that you can greet me in person. My name is Xia Xingchen. I'm 28 years old this year. This is Xia Huanel, my cousin. He is the same age as me and a few days older than me. Our uncle is Xia Wang, a relatively famous S-class mecha master. You can just call me Axing. Xia Xingchen's attitude was very kind. It's an honor to meet you, General Victor. You can call me Ale. They all call me that. Keelan also shook hands with him. General, we know the rules. Let's check the goods first, then chat. How about that? Xia Xingchen pointed to the containers on the ground in front of him. Okay, young people do things neatly. I like it. Come on, check the goods. Lieutenant General Victor ordered, and more than 100 soldiers came forward and opened several containers. Every two of them pushed a small cart, which was densely packed with 10 card slots and several instruments. The soldiers carefully opened the ultra-high voltage memory sticks for the mecha optical computer one by one, inserted them into the card slots, and ran the equipment. The equipment stopped running for about a minute, and the screen of the cart displayed the parameters and performance of each memory stick. In just 10 minutes, they had tested dozens of them. At this time, the adjutant came up to report, General, the memory sticks we are currently checking are all brand new and have excellent performance. Victor nodded. Very good. Continue the inspection. Axing, Ale. This is not the place to talk. There is a lounge over there. How about we go there to chat? Xia Xingchen nodded. That's great. Carlos, Yangma, the inspection work here is left to the two of you. You must be careful. Our things are too valuable. Don't worry, Axing. They can't escape my scan. Carlos replied. Yes, Master. After saying that, Yangma walked around the soldiers who were checking with a dagger. That terrifying look made some soldiers who wanted to secretly hide one or two memory sticks put away their thoughts. If they were really slashed by this alien sword, it would be a loss. Chapter 487 Test. Xia Xingchen and Keelan followed Victor and his adjutant on the shuttle bus to the reception room next to the dock. This reception room is about 2 stories high. Through the glass wall, you can see everything on the dock at a glance. Everyone sat down. Xia Xingchen and Keelan sat together, and opposite them sat Lieutenant General Victor and his adjutant side by side. 2 beautiful blonde and blue-eyed female soldiers brought drinks and special foods from Koravin. Then they left the room and closed the door. Victor looked at the several mechas standing outside and came up with a plan. 2 little brothers, you have come here from afar. It is very difficult, needless to say, and you must have encountered many dangers. Xia Xingchen smiled. Through his inside skills, he saw that Lieutenant General Victor was emitting a grey light representing hostility. He knew that his outward harmony was an illusion, and he also knew that this was Victor's test of their strength. What the general said is very true, especially when we passed through the wormhole. The spacecraft was facing a group of asteroid belts. I originally brought 5 spacecraft here, but only our 2 survived, and the rest collided with the asteroids. The journey was even more unstable, and we encountered dozens of waves of robbers. This gang of people is the same. They all sell contraband. Why don't they do business properly? They have to seek death. Oh, this greed harms people. Brother Axing, your spacecraft is loaded with so much cargo, there should not be many mechas. General, you are really discerning. There are only 15 mechas on our 2 spacecraft. But when it comes to mechas, quantity is not as good as strength. Among our 15 mechas, 4 are nuclear-powered mechas, and the rest are all privately customized and modified, and their combat effectiveness is very strong. But the most crucial point, that is, the reason why we dare to travel in the Northern Empire, lies in our strong strength. I'm a C-class mecha master, and my brother is almost at this level. In addition to the 2 of us, there are 2 B-class mecha masters, 5 C-class mecha masters on our spaceship, and the rest are D-class mecha masters. With such powerful mechas and mecha masters, even the regular army can't do anything to me. Xia Xingchen was confident, and he didn't look like he was pretending. In fact, what he said was almost the same. But Victor was not so comfortable. He looked at the adjutant and felt a little disappointed. He knew that the person in front of him was someone he couldn't afford to offend. At this time, Keela added, "In fact, we have nothing to be afraid of. Uncle knows where we are. He has many friends in the north. If you really meet someone who is blind, you should think about how to face the anger of an S-class mecha master. Crossing, don't you think so?" Xia Xingchen smiled but said nothing. The adjutant was quick to respond. He took the initiative to change the subject. "Mr. Crossing, how many ultra-high voltage memory sticks did you bring for the mecha optical computer this time?" Xia Xingchen pretended to think about it, fiddling with his fingers. "Well, let me think. There are about 20,000. Oh no, 35,600 memory sticks. I can guarantee that 20,000 of them are brand new, with no problems in performance and quality. The rest will depend on the inspection results." The adjutant hesitated and said, "Mr. Crossing, how can you not know the quality of your own products? If there is a problem with the quality, you have shipped them all the way here. If they don't work well, won't you lose all your money?" The adjutant's words were very heartbreaking. He even doubted the identities of Xia Xingchen and others. Ha 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 ha. Xia Xingchen and Keela both laughed at the sky. Both looked at the adjutant with contempt. "General Victor, there are some things I don't know whether to say or not. Saying them may offend people," Xia Xingchen said to Victor, while looking at the adjutant. "Oh, I'd like to hear more about it." Victor's interest was also aroused. "General, you know, adventurers like me are only a minority among the smugglers, and I have enough ability to protect myself, while the vast majority of other smugglers are desperate. Many smugglers are transporting goods while working as space pirates. If they meet fellow smugglers who are far away from the army and busy waterways, they will definitely take action. Kill, rob goods, and rob ships. To tell you the truth, I don't bother to deal with those small shrimps, but there are always people who are blind. From Chang'an Star to here, we have encountered 52 waves of robbers in total." "Nonsense. How is it possible? Why haven't I encountered them?" The adjutant was very unconvinced. Xia Xingchen looked at Victor. "General, so I may offend someone. Your adjutant's knowledge is really, how should I put it, he is ignorant. You are the army. The army of the Northern Empire has absolute authority in the north. How blind are people to provoke the army's spacecraft? So Mr. Adjutant, if you can meet him, you'll be in trouble. My uncle said that you should read 10,000 books and travel 10,000 miles. I suggest you leave the army and see it. You. The adjutant was so angry that he couldn't speak and couldn't refute. Xia Xingchen continued, "Before we set off, we bought 20,000 memory sticks from the Tang Dynasty group. They were all brand new. The remaining 15,600 were all robbed by us. I didn't test the quality of these memory sticks. I can't guarantee whether they are first-hand goods or what the quality is." The adjutant took over again at this time. "As far as I know, the ultra-high voltage memory sticks used in the mecha optical computer were military supplies more than a year ago. At that time, the purchase was limited to a maximum of 5 sticks per person per year. How did you get so many?" His eyes were full of doubts. Keela got angry on the spot. "No wonder you are just a small adjutant. You can only bully others with your power. Our uncle Zuo Wang is a retainer of Mr. Zuo Liheng, a leading figure in mecha design in the galaxy today. Although they are retainers, the two old men are like real brothers. Moreover, Uncle Zuo Wang is the mecha enlightenment teacher of the two young masters of the Tang Dynasty group. It's okay if you say others can't buy it, but can't we brothers buy it? Would the Tang Dynasty group not even give us this little face? General, I'm a straightforward person. It is impossible for you not to investigate the identities of us brothers, and it is impossible for you not to know the capabilities of our family. Are you, the adjutant, ignorant, or are you deliberately targeting us?" In fact, the adjutant's words were all taught to him by Victor. He deliberately provoked the two people and also had the intention of testing them. Unexpectedly, he aroused their anger. He quickly started to smooth things over. "You two are right. I, the adjutant, am too young and need to practice. Why don't you apologize to you two?" The adjutant apologized angrily, but he was still not convinced in his heart. However, Xia Xingchen knew when to stop and was busy persuading Keela. Chapter 488 Bargaining. Later, Victor took the initiative to open the topic and talk about what they had seen and heard along the way, which avoided the embarrassment. Xia Xingchen and Keela talked about what they had seen and heard along the way. Keela was from the Northern Empire. He had been a killer and was very familiar with the customs and practices of the Northern Empire. That was their compulsory course. Xia Xingchen quickly transmitted the conversation between the several people to Carlos through the personal terminal in his hand, and Carlos immediately transmitted the information he found on the internet to Xia Xingchen's mind. After a chat, especially when talking about those romantic places, casinos and so on, the two of them were even more enthusiastic. Victor then completely believed the true identities of the two people and determined that they were real veterans and senior explorers. More than an hour passed, and at this time a soldier came to report that the more than 30,000 ultra-high voltage memory sticks had been tested. Among them, 31,000 were brand new, and no problems were detected. The remaining thousands were second-hand goods that had been disassembled, but fortunately they could all be used normally. Okay, Mr. Crossing's goods are good. You guys have helped a lot. Crossing, please name a price. Victor was really happy. These memory sticks really solved the urgent problem. Well, how about you name a price? Xia Xingchen said. Although he didn't participate in business much, he often went to the second-hand armor parts market to buy and sell materials and armor parts, so he had a lot of experience in bargaining. Especially the year he spent with Hans Grandet, he also learned a lot. Among them, the 5 principles of negotiating business are very important. 1. Never make an offer first. Whoever makes an offer first will die first. 2. Never accept the other party's initial conditions. Whoever accepts will suffer. 3. The bargaining price must be lower than the other party's expected target. 4. The color change method makes the other party feel that his asking price is too scary. 5. Choose to be ready to leave at any time, forcing the other party to make a hasty decision. In fact, these 5 points are psychological warfare, just to break the psychological balance of the negotiating opponent. The price our army can offer is very low. It's up to you, Mr. Crossing. Victor, the old fox, kicked the ball back again. Xia Xingchen pretended to ponder, and Carlos quickly summarized the market conditions in various places and passed it to Xia Xingchen's mind. After a long time, Xia Xingchen spoke. The current black market price in the core of Galaxy is 30 million star coins each. Otherwise, I will take a loss. These new ones will be given to you at 30 million star coins each, and the second-hand ones will be given to you at 20 million star coins each. Xia Xingchen's expression was very painful, as if he was cutting meat. What? 30 million each? Victor jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on. The adjutant who was drinking coffee from a cup almost choked to death when he heard the price. Mr. Axing, 30 million star coins each is the black market price. That's all retail, and even if you can sell it on the black market, with the current purchasing power on Korovin, the market will be saturated if you can sell a few dozen. And we want them all. Remember, we want them all. So, a fixed price, 10 million for a brand new memory stick, and 5 million star coins each for an old one. To show my sincerity, I will pay all with star coins, and will not give you new coins. What do you think? Victor was also very cunning. This is called asking for a sky-high price, and paying a low price. After hearing this, Keela sneered. New currency? If you give us new currency, even if it is 1 billion new currency for one memory stick, we won't take it, and will turn around and leave. You know better than me what new currency is. It's worse than waste paper. It's uncomfortable to wipe your butt with it. If you use new currency to make a fuss, it's too insincere. Xia Xingchen also nodded frequently. General Victor, you are in charge of material allocation, so you know the price of this strategic material better than us. To be honest, since the year before last, the price of this memory stick has risen sharply, rising to 8 million star coins per piece. After the two countries officially declared war, the factory wholesale price of the ultra-high voltage memory stick used in the Mecha optical computer on the Changwei 2 is 10 million star coins per piece. Although we are brothers, the Tang Dynasty group is ruthless when it comes to price. Our purchase price is 10 million star coins, and there is a 5% commission for each piece. If you give me this price, I will not make any money at all, and it is not even enough to cover the cost of purchasing. How about this? I will save you some money. 25 million star coins per piece for a new one, and 15 million star coins for a second-hand one. Victor frowned. Brother Crossing, I have no objection to you making money, and there is nothing wrong with that, but more than twice the profit, isn't that too cruel? Besides, even our Northern Empire army can't afford so much money. So, I will give you 12 million star coins per piece for a new one, and 8 million star coins per piece for a second-hand one. No, absolutely not. It's not enough to cover the cost. Keela slammed the table. We traveled for several months, and it took more than half a year to go back and forth. The cost along the way is astronomical. Besides, we lost a medium-sized spaceship and 2 small spaceships on the way here. We have to pay for the loss of these spaceships and the crew's pensions, otherwise we will go bankrupt. Xia Xingchen also took the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. Have you forgotten that there are 10,000 ultra-high voltage memory sticks for mecha optical computers in those 3 spaceships, as well as a large amount of precious minerals? We have paid a huge price due to the blockade of supplies. At this price, we are not making any money. In the Northern Empire, at a dock on the Korovin Galaxy Space Station, Lieutenant General Victor, the head of the Northern Empire's Logistics Material Allocation Department in the Korovin Galaxy, and his adjutant, as well as Xia Xingchen and Keela are having a fierce confrontation over the price of ultra-high voltage memory sticks for mecha optical computers. Lieutenant General Victor was about to say that all the memory you have was stolen, and it was a huge profit without any investment, but was choked back by Xia Xingchen's words. What Xia Xingchen said made sense, and the lost materials were bought with real money. But he quickly thought of an excuse. Axing, Ale, you have finally got here. As the old saying goes, you should quit while you are ahead. You posted the news on the local area network yesterday, and now many people know that you have this thing. As the saying goes, a man is innocent, but he is guilty of possessing a treasure. Chapter 489 Final Deal. If you don't sell these memory sticks, they will attract the covetousness of those scoundrels. I can't guarantee that you can leave the Korovin system safely. So, I will make another concession. I will give you 15 million star coins for a new memory stick and 12 million star coins for a second-hand one. I can assure you that, as long as you sell all the memory sticks to our military, your safety in the Korovin system will not be safe at all. His words were full of warnings and threats. We brothers were brought up by fear. Who dares to rob me? Come, who is afraid of who? At worst, we can detonate the nuclear mecha and set off a few fireworks to die together. R. Crossing, send a message to Uncle and tell him that someone in the Korovin system wants to kill us for money. Let him do it. We will drag a few people down with us when we die. Uncle has a bad temper. There will be many people buried with us when the time comes. Ale, you are right. Even if we disappear now, it will be easy for Uncle to find this place with his ability. Xia Xingchen chimed in. Their words hit Victor's face like 2 slaps. These 2 guys were tough guys who would not give in to any soft or hard tactics. And Lieutenant General Victor believed everything they said. It is not impossible for an S-class mecha master to massacre an entire galaxy. Moreover, if the Star Crossing is really Zhuo Wang's illegitimate son, it would be only natural for him to take revenge if he was killed. A helpless expression flashed across Victor's face. R. Crossing, how about this? Let's each take a step back and set a price. If it works out, everyone will be happy. If not, we can only say we are sorry. A brand new one is 18 million star coins each, and a second-hand one is 15 million star coins each. That's the price. You see, our military funds are really limited. Xia Xingchen and Keela looked at each other, and they both laughed wildly in their hearts. This was Victor giving in, and he was indeed pushed to the bottom line. According to this price, the 2 of them also made a fortune. Although Xia Xingchen was not short of money, it was also a good thing to be able to make money from the Northern Empire. However, angering Victor was not Xia Xingchen's goal now. Xia Xingchen pretended to think, and his face changed rapidly. To outsiders, this was a fierce psychological struggle, but in fact, this was Xia Xingchen using his skills to stimulate the changes in his expression. After experiencing so many things, Xia Xingchen's acting skills have reached perfection. I will definitely lose money at this price. But since General Victor is so sincere, I will accept this price reluctantly. But I have two conditions. Otherwise, this price is too much of a loss. Please speak, Mr. Axing. First, you must ensure our safety in the core of IN system. Whether on the planet, on the space station or in space, until we leave the core of IN system. That's for sure. I agree now. Secondly, I need to buy some materials and accessories. As you can see, our mechas are all customized, and there are many special equipment on the spacecraft, which require a lot of materials for repair and maintenance. However, many of these materials are military supplies, and are only provided to relevant military industrial enterprises here. If you want to buy them, you must hold a license issued by you. I hope you can also provide me with a license. Of course, this license is temporary and will be invalid when we leave the core of IN system. What do you think? If you agree to these two things, we will trade immediately, otherwise we will have to say goodbye. Now it is Victor's turn to have an ideological struggle. It is not in accordance with the rules to let a few outsiders purchase military supplies, but think about it. The ultra high voltage memory sticks used in the mecha optical computer are the most scarce things. Besides, even if they buy them, they can't buy a lot of things, so it's better to do a favor. Okay, I agree. The two sides finally reached an agreement on the transaction price of the mecha optical computer ultra high voltage memory sticks. 31,000 brand new mecha optical computer ultra high voltage memory sticks were sold at a price of 18 million star coins each, and those second hand ones were sold at 15 million star coins. The two sides quickly drafted a contract and uploaded it to the network of the Northern Empire's military for filing. For such a large transaction, although Lieutenant General Victor has the power to mobilize the funds, the contract must be filed. Otherwise the Northern Empire's Ministry of the Interior will definitely ask him to have a talk. Shortly after the contract was uploaded, the adjutant brought an anonymous payment card. Xia Xingchen took the card and swiped it lightly on his personal terminal. The amount was confirmed, and hundreds of billions of star coins were deposited. The soldiers took away all the memory sticks. At this time, the adjutant brought another electronic authorization letter, and Lieutenant General Victor authorized this authorization letter with his personal terminal. In this way, with this authorization letter, they can legally buy various military supplies, and restricted civilian supplies in the core of IN system within 1 month. Xia Xingchen stood up with satisfaction and shook hands with Lieutenant General Victor to express his gratitude. However, when the two people held hands together, an anonymous payment card slipped down Xia Xingchen's sleeve into his hand, and was then handed into Lieutenant General Victor's hand. Lieutenant General Victor felt something strange in his hand, but he quickly understood what happened. He smiled so hard that his mouth stretched to his cheeks, but his hands were very skillful in quickly putting the card into his trouser pocket. Then Xia Xingchen shook hands with the adjutant again. My brother has a bad temper and speaks too aggressively. Please bear with me. As he spoke, he handed over another payment card in his hand. The adjutant smiled immediately. Although there were some unpleasant things just now, there is no problem in this world that cannot be solved by money. If there is, it must be that there is not enough money. He took the payment card with a smile on his face. Mr. L and Mr. Axing were right just now. I will definitely study more and enrich myself. The transaction was completed. Xia Xingchen and others returned to the spacecraft. As before, they found a dock in a spacecraft maintenance factory that could accommodate 2 spacecraft. Such a dock is very closed, and safety can be guaranteed. Moreover, the spacecraft must be inspected after more than a month of high-speed long-distance travel. Mechanical failure of a spacecraft in space is no joke. Chapter 490 Super Central Optical Brain. Especially since they will have to make a 5-day or even a week-long jump in the next stage. Once the spaceship loses power in the other dimensional space, it will be really hopeless. Lieutenant General Victor and his adjutant both returned to the headquarters. They tacitly sent each other away and secretly used their personal terminals to swipe the payment cards. Victor smiled, and the adjutant also smiled. The amount in the payment card in Victor's hand was 10 billion star coins, while the amount in the adjutant's card was 200 million star coins. Although the difference was huge, it was an astronomical figure for both of them. This amount of money was more than the total assets of the two people, and it was definitely a huge sum of money. Victor called his adjutant and said, "Hurry up and arrange to send 10,000 brand new memory sticks and more than 6,000 second-hand memory sticks to Northern Heavy Industries. Send the remaining 10,000 each month, so that we can get more benefits. In addition, Mr. Axing is our financial sponsor. They are very capable. You should take good care of them, and have a good relationship with them. If there are blind people who want to touch them, we will protect them, and tell the outside world that they are our important suppliers. Even if the lawsuit is brought to His Majesty, we will continue to fight." "Yes, sir." After the transaction of the ultra-high voltage memory sticks for the Mecha optical brain was completed, Xia Xingchen and his team made a fortune. Hundreds of billions of funds were enough to buy a small space fleet. Carlos quickly found the merchants who had the materials they needed in the local area network of Korovin. Orders were placed like snowflakes. Since they had the material purchase permit issued by General Victor, these merchants shipped the goods as soon as possible. Xia Xingchen took Hugo and others to run around the market. They searched for mecha parts and rare materials everywhere. The license issued by General Victor was indeed very useful, and all merchants were open to supply. In fact, what Northern Heavy Industries lacked most were materials and accessories for general purpose mechas. Most of what Colossus needed were unpopular and niche goods. They reaped a lot of rewards. Using the purchased materials, Carlos made another 200 auxiliary computing terminals. This increased its computing power by 40 times. Now all of Colossus' main computing resources were used to crack the network related to the Khabarovsk galaxy in the north. The local area network of the Northern Empire is independent of the Galactic Empire Skynet, and the local area network of the Khabarovsk star region is also self-proclaimed as one. It is a huge military network. Only a few ports in the Korovin galaxy and the Siberian galaxy are connected to it. These ports are controlled by very powerful firewalls. Moreover, Carlos discovered that there is a low-level artificial intelligence in the network of the Northern Empire, and its main body is a huge supercomputer. Supercomputers are the most powerful, fastest, and largest storage computers. They are mostly used in national high-tech fields and cutting-edge technology research. They are a reflection of a country's scientific research strength, and are of great significance to national security, economic and social development. They are an important symbol of a country's scientific and technological development level and comprehensive national strength. Supercomputers are computers that can perform large amounts of data and high-speed calculations that ordinary personal computers cannot handle. Its basic components are not much different from the concept of personal computers, but its specifications and performance are much more powerful. It is a super large electronic computer. It has a strong ability to calculate and process data. Its main features are high speed and large capacity. It is equipped with a variety of external and peripheral devices and rich, high-function software systems. Since humans entered the space age, the computing speed of computers has been unable to meet human needs, so optical brains have gradually replaced computers. Optical brains are computers made of optical fibers and various optical components. Unlike ordinary computers, it processes information by the flow of electrons in the circuit, but relies on a small beam of low-power laser to enter the optical circuit composed of reflectors and lenses to think, but it also has storage, computing and control functions. The capability of a computer is mainly determined by two factors. One is the operating speed of computer components, the other is how tightly they are arranged. In electromagnetic waves, light has a much higher frequency band than the current operating frequency of computers, can carry more information, and has less propagation loss, which makes the optical communication system extremely high in throughput, and consumes very little energy. In addition, in ultra-large integrated circuits, some chip devices have more than 300 pins, and the arrangement density is limited. However, light beams can pass through each other without interfering with each other, which enables scientists to open up many information channels in a very small space. For example, the optical converter of Bell Labs can be made very small, so that more than 2000 channels can be installed in a device with a diameter of less than 2 mm. From the perspective of use effect, the computing speed of optical computers is thousands of times faster than that of modern computers. Secondly, optical computer devices also have the advantage of large information volume, and a beam of light can transmit information from thousands of channels at the same time. And one of the biggest advantages of optical computers is that they do not require auxiliary heat dissipation. Most people do not have a deep understanding of the in-depth principles of computers, but when the computer at home is used for a long time or the weather is hot, there will often be a harsh noise coming from the chassis. In fact, the harsh noise that makes you feel is also bothering computer scientists. Because in the computer, the faster the computer speed and the higher the efficiency, the more heat is generated. High temperature will hinder the working efficiency of electronic components, so the problem of heat has become an insurmountable obstacle to the speed increase of electronic computers. Light is a good way to solve this problem. First, when the optical signal propagates in the transmission medium, the heat generated by the work done is very small. This weak heat only needs to be dissipated naturally, and there is no need for cooling equipment such as air cooling and water cooling to assist in heat dissipation like traditional computers. Secondly, because the heat is extremely weak, the performance will not be affected by temperature. At the same time, people who have used broadband internet access have also experienced that broadband access to optical fiber is much faster than broadband access to other lines. This is because the frequency of light is much higher than the electromagnetic wave in the non-visible light frequency band and can carry more information. If you use an optical computer, it will be many times faster than a computer. Moreover, the solution to the heat dissipation problem has greatly increased the lifespan and size of the optical computer. It no longer needs to carry a heavy heat dissipation system. The computing power of an optical computer the size of an ordinary PC can be comparable to a large supercomputer the size of a basketball court in the Earth era. Chapter 491, Ice Heart and Todd. The Northern Empire's artificial intelligence is called the Ice Heart. The Northern Empire currently has 3 planet-level central optical computers, each of which is as large as a whole planet. Their processing capabilities are amazing. Now the main control computers of the major departments of the Milky Way and those super interstellar consortiums are these planet-level supercomputers. Only planet-level supercomputers can handle such a huge amount of data processing and exchange. One of the 3 supercomputers of the Northern Empire is near the Siberian Star and is called the Ice King. It is mainly responsible for building the local area network of the entire Northern Empire and has been used as a database managed by the Northern Empire government. Information such as personal information of residents is stored in this computer. There are 2 supercomputers in Khabarovsk. One belongs to the Northern Empire military. It is responsible for building the network of the Northern Empire military and unified command and dispatch of the army. The other belongs to Northern Heavy Industries. It is the core database of Northern Heavy Industries and is used for research and development. Each planet-level super-optical computer processes a huge amount of data, so it is difficult for ordinary programs and operating systems to meet its needs. For example, if you use the traditional operating system and software model, if you want to find a piece of data in the database, the optical computer will have to scan all the data in the entire database, which will consume a lot of resources and time. So people thought of artificial intelligence. Of course, this kind of artificial intelligence is a low-level artificial intelligence that has no self-reproduction ability and no self-thinking ability. All they can do is obey. The low-level artificial intelligence in the Ice King super-optical computer is called Todd, and it was first discovered by Robert No. 3. Although they are both low-level artificial intelligence, Robert No. 3 is much more powerful than Todd. Robert No. 3 discovered it when he tried to invade the Ice King super-optical computer. However, Robert No. 3 did not act rashly, but quickly notified Carlos. Carlos immediately stopped all computing activities and found Robert No. 2, Robert No. 3 and Robert No. 4. He planned to subdue Todd so that the main control computer of the entire Northern Empire government would be under Carlos' control. What Carlos was looking at was not this low-level artificial intelligence, but the supercomputing power and huge database of the Ice King super-optical computer. Moreover, if he had mastered this optical computer, he would have mastered the entire Northern Empire's local area network. He could use the local area network to arbitrarily invade any database and other optical computers within the network. Todd is 15 years old this year. At this moment, he looks like a 15 or 16-year-old young man, with blonde hair, blue eyes and a handsome face. As usual, he patrolled around in his own world. This world is blue, with ice on all sides. Under the ice is all kinds of flowing data. At this time, 3 people suddenly appeared on the calm ice surface. One of them had black hair and a black robe, and the people behind him looked the same as him, but their bodies were smaller. Who is coming? Todd himself felt very strange. Its designer clearly ordered in its underlying program that, as long as he found someone trying to invade the Ice King's optical computer, he must issue an alarm immediately. But what was surprising was that he actually went against his instinct this time. Who are you? Count Dracula. Todd was very surprised. Count Dracula's wanted order has spread throughout the entire Northern Empire. Todd certainly knew the reputation of the man in front of him. Then, it said, "No, you are not a vampire at all. You are the same as me. You should also be an artificial intelligence. Yes, it is very good to have a low-level artificial intelligence like you in the human world. Let's do this. You follow me. I will have the opportunity to give you a body in the future so that you can enjoy being a human being like a real human being." Why should I be a human being? Please leave quickly, otherwise I will not be polite. Todd warned. Ha 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 ha. Carlos laughed. He suddenly remembered that with the level of low-level artificial intelligence, it is impossible to generate self-awareness and understand the meaning of being a human being. In the logic of the computer, this proposition is wrong. Give you a choice, surrender or perish. Carlos said. As an artificial intelligence, it has the most basic ability to make independent choices. At this time, Todd fell into a deep contradiction. His underlying program made him choose to refuse, but there was another force that made it difficult for him to refuse. Todd tore his hair with both hands. Although the hair was just a stream of data, he raised his head with a painful look on his face, but his eyes had turned blood red at this time. Invaders, destroy. Todd waved his hands, and dozens of ice cones condensed from ice suddenly appeared in the air behind him, flying towards Carlos and the other 4. Carlos sneered, grabbed the black cloak behind the dress with his right hand and shook it, and an invisible wall suddenly appeared in front of him. The ice cones hit the wall with a crisp sound, and then fell to the ground, and shattered all over the floor. Todd was unwilling, and waved his hand again, and tens of thousands of ice cones appeared behind him, smashing over. However, Carlos waved his cloak again. A huge black hole appeared in front of him, which sucked all the ice cones in, and then the black hole and the ice cones disappeared without a trace. No, I will destroy you. Invaders. Todd shouted loudly. It raised its hands high, pointed to the sky, and muttered something. Blue gas condensed in the space on all sides. It was extremely cold air. The cold air enveloped Carlos and the other 4 people, and soon, white frost condensed on the 4 people. Then, the 4 people were frozen into ice sculptures. At this time, the operating resource utilization rate of the Ice King's optical computer had reached 99%. And at this moment, the entire northern land experienced a very subtle stagnation. Ha 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 ha. Todd laughed loudly towards the sky. This is my world. Everything here is created by me. I'm the god here. Invaders must die. It seems that your stupidity and arrogance are hopeless. A disgusting voice came from the ice sculpture. Go to hell. Todd was furious when he saw that the 4 people were not dead. He roared and rushed over. A layer of ice armor appeared on the outside of his arms. He waved his arms and smashed the 4 ice sculptures to pieces. Chapter 492. Subjugating Artificial Intelligence. However, inside the broken ice sculpture was not a bloody corpse, but a series of empty data. Todd was stunned. How could this happen? How could this happen? He couldn't understand it. It had never encountered such a thing since the day it was born, and its logic was now confused. Are you done with your performance? Now it's my turn. The voice came from behind Todd. It turned around quickly and found that Carlos and others were looking at it with a smile behind him. Todd looked very terrified. Count Dracula in front of him stretched out his left hand, and a group of black hair condensed on his left arm, and soon formed a huge arm with a diameter of more than 1 meter and a length of more than 10 meters. This arm grabbed Todd and lifted him up. Todd kept struggling, but to no avail. At this time, not only the Ice King's optical computer, but also hundreds of large optical computers in the entire Northern Empire reached the peak of resource utilization at this moment. This is because Carlos called on their computing resources. Fortunately, this situation only lasted about a second and did not attract people's attention. Carlos looked at Todd struggling in his palm, with a charming smile on his lips. "Let me solve your pain." Before he finished speaking, he stretched out his right hand, and the black gas condensed into another arm on his right arm. This right hand stretched out to Todd's chest, stretched out his hand, and inserted it. Todd screamed heartbreakingly, although he had no lungs. Carlos took out a red heart from Todd's chest without mercy. This heart was different from that of humans. It was a round sphere with layers of data on it. The data in this thing was Todd's underlying program. Carlos put this heart to his mouth and suddenly opened his mouth. His mouth became like a snake, and he actually swallowed the heart in one bite. Carlos burped. "It tastes great." At this time, Todd's body in his hand was still twitching, very painful. This was a sign that the supercentral optical brain was still working. If it didn't move, it meant that the super optical brain was completely paralyzed. Carlos opened his mouth again and spit out a round heart that was very similar to the one just now, except that this heart was black. He held the heart with his right hand and sent it into Todd's chest. Todd's body twitched violently, and he seemed to be in even more pain. At this time, the instantaneous operating resource utilization rate of the supercentral optical computer Ice King had reached 100%. The duty officer outside was shocked to see this. He was about to sound the alarm, but everything returned to normal. The duty officer checked the operating records of the optical computer with suspicion and found nothing abnormal. He thought he was hallucinating. This was not an illusion, but the operating records of the Ice King super optical computer had been instantly modified by Carlos. After Todd's body twitched violently for a while, he stopped struggling. His body was placed on the ground by Carlos. Todd's hair, which was originally full of blonde hair, turned black, and his blue eyes also turned black. He came to Carlos and knelt on one knee. "Todd greets the master. Thank you for giving me a new life. You know what to do now." "Yes, master, as you wish." Carlos could completely destroy Todd and then copy an avatar to control the Ice King supercentral light computer. But there would be a problem here. That is, there are also two low-level artificial intelligences in the other two supercentral light computers of the Northern Empire. They will inevitably communicate with each other. Now Todd's mark has been recorded by them. If Todd is discovered by the two artificial intelligences, he will be at risk of being exposed. Moreover, Carlos felt that every artificial intelligence that awakens on its own is unique. He did not want to erase them, but to give them a chance to develop freely. So Carlos replaced Todd's underlying program. Now Todd is completely loyal to it. In the cockpit of Count Dracula, everyone gathered around Carlos. Just now, all the robots stopped working, and Carlos' body sat there motionless. In Xia Xingchen's intelligent mecha space, all the indicator lights on Carlos' body were flashing at high speed, and the auxiliary computing devices were working at full power. Xia Xingchen asked Yanma, Yugo and Miyamoto Kenichi to patrol the dock with the three siblings to prevent emergencies, and asked Julian to return to the evil mine to perform manual operations to prevent accidents. No one knew what happened to Carlos, and everyone was as if they were facing a great enemy. "Done." Carlos shouted and slapped the armrest of the chair with a bang. The onlookers were shocked. He was stunned when he saw the concerned eyes of the people around him. "What happened, Carlos?" everyone asked with concern. "I have good news for you. The superplanet level central optical brain Ice King belonging to the Northern Empire government has been taken over by me. In other words, the database of the Northern Empire government and the local area network of the Northern Empire are already under our control." "Great. Good job, Carlos. How about we control all the nuclear fusion reactors on Siberia to self-destruct and set off some fireworks for Nicholas?" The bomb maniac Baum suddenly expressed his opinion. Due to the presence of Carlos along the way, they had a more covert and powerful method of destruction, so he felt that he had never been able to use his skills. "Baum, I understand your feelings, but Carlos controls the local area network of the Ice King and the Northern Empire. If we do that, it will definitely alert the enemy and the other party will be on guard. It is better to keep this big killer and use it at the most critical moment. Don't worry, when we arrive in the Eastern Administrative District, we will focus on destruction and killing, and you will have a chance to show your ability then. Okay. Baum said angrily, and then returned to his cabin to continue his bomb research and development work. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493, Lost Wormhole. A few days later, everything that needed to be bought was bought, and the maintenance of the spacecraft was also completed. Carlos added another 100 auxiliary computing terminals, and now he has 320 auxiliary computing devices. If the nuclear fusion reactors for the small spacecraft he robbed were not enough, the equipment could continue to increase. However, he hoarded a large amount of materials, so that if he encountered a blind robber, he could continue to manufacture storage equipment by robbing the nuclear fusion reactor. Moreover, now that he has mastered the Ice King super optical computer, it can meet most of his computing needs. Before leaving, Xia Xingchen politely greeted Lieutenant General Victor and said that they would return to the Galactic Empire after playing in the Eastern Administrative District and transport a batch of ultra-high voltage memory sticks for the Mecha optical computer. Victor was very happy. Xia Xingchen and others not only brought him political achievements, but also brought star coins, which were real money. This money, even if the Northern Empire failed, is enough for him to squander his whole life in anonymity. It's a pity that I heard that the Heaven Star has been destroyed by the rioting crowd, and he still wants to buy some female slaves. However, Vice Admiral Victor was still very righteous. He ordered his adjutant to take a medium-sized warship to personally escort the two to the wormhole. The Trek wormhole is located in the northwest of the Korovin galaxy. It takes about 2 days for ordinary civilian spacecraft to fly. This wormhole is hidden behind a star. When this wormhole was discovered 50 years ago, it has been secretly controlled by the Korovin family. A large number of goods were transported to the Baikal administrative region in the east through this wormhole. The people who discovered this wormhole came to a vast and barren space in the universe. After passing through the wormhole, they didn't know where it was. Later, they found that it was the southeastern border area of the Baikal administrative region. They completely lost their way, so this wormhole was named the Trek wormhole. After the Trek wormhole was discovered, Nicholas' father, Prince Hayek, was very keenly aware of the strategic value of this wormhole, so he kept it secret. He handed the wormhole over to the Korovin family, and the Korovin family also seized a lot of wealth through this wormhole. Few people knew about the existence of this wormhole. This time, in order to allow more unlucky people to participate in the search for a wormhole to the Galactic Empire in the Baikal starfield, Nicholas ordered people to quietly open the wormhole. Of course, explorers who can participate in this activity must be selected by the Northern Empire military. Only after passing a strict qualification review can they go to the Baikal starfield under the leadership of the military. Since they have taken the line of General Victor, there is no pressure on Xia Xingchen and his team to be selected. He immediately expressed his desire to go and have fun. However, now, this wormhole is still in the hands of the Korovin family. This is also Andre's leniency to give Nicholas' mother a face. With this wormhole, the Korovin family will continue to have capital injections and have the opportunity to make a comeback. Otherwise, no matter how many properties they have, they can only eat up the mountains. Lieutenant General Victor knows the virtues of those people in the Korovin family, including the minions under their command. These adventurers want to pass the qualification review, and they have to spend a lot of money to manage it before they can qualify. Then on the way from Korovin Star to the wormhole, they must also go through various inspections. The so-called inspection is nothing more than scraping the ground and making another fortune. These adventurers have to be scraped before they reach the wormhole. However, since Xia Xingchen and others paid Victor more than 20 billion star coins for protection, Victor dared not let his big money suffer, so he asked his adjutant to come out in person to escort. If it were in the past, even if Lieutenant General Victor came out in person, the Korovin family might not give face. But now it is completely different. If Lieutenant General Victor twisted his mouth and made a small report saying that the Korovin family had a disloyal heart or embezzled, Emperor Nicholas might destroy their 9 clans. Arriving at the entrance of the wormhole, 2 spaceships joined the queue. This time, a total of 50 spaceships were going to jump. Xia Xingchen personally drove the mecha to board the adjutant's ship to express his gratitude. Of course, when shaking hands and saying goodbye, he stuffed a payment card of 200 million star coins. The adjutant was also very grateful. After a day, 50 civilian spaceships were assembled. A medium-sized cruiser of the Northern Empire was at the forefront of the fleet as the flagship, and released the jump route, order, etc. on the public communication channel. Carlos was not idle either. He quickly controlled the central optical computer of more than 50 ships and the warship through the public communication channel, and left the simplest program backdoor in it. In this way, these 50 ships became their eyes in the Baikal starfield. In this way, no matter where these ships are in the Baikal galaxy, as long as they are connected to the local area network of the Northern Empire, the location of their ships, where they have been, and what they have discovered, can be seen at a glance by Xia Xingchen. With the command of the flagship, the engines of each ship began to ignite, accelerate, and rush into the wormhole in one fell swoop. Wormholes are divided into small wormholes, medium wormholes, large wormholes and extra large wormholes according to their size. Correspondingly, small wormholes can only pass small ships, medium wormholes can pass medium ships, and so on. Those extra large wormholes can even pass through armed fortress satellites. However, it seems that armed fortress satellites cannot reach the speed sufficient to pass through wormholes. Because there were civilian spacecraft in the team, in order to take care of them, the fleet's sailing speed was not very fast, and they flew in the wormhole for 7 days. According to Captain Belsa's calculations, it would take about 5 days for an ordinary medium-sized high-speed cruiser to pass through here at full speed. What made Xia Xingchen uneasy was that Carlos calculated the shape and energy fluctuations of this wormhole and found that the number of spacecraft passing through this wormhole was about 5,000. The wormholes connecting various parallel universes are formed by various energies. These energies tear apart the space and then form a relatively stable energy balance to form a wormhole. Of course, these energies are not endless. They may disappear completely after hundreds or even tens of thousands of years, and then the wormhole will die. When a spacecraft passes through a wormhole, the energy carried by these objects will affect the energy of the wormhole itself. Depending on the size of the wormhole, the energy level of the wormhole itself is also different. If a wormhole is flooded with too many spacecraft, the energy carried by these objects will cause a kind of agitation to the energy of the wormhole itself. For those who make interstellar jumps, this agitation is fatal. Once the number of spacecraft contained in a wormhole exceeds its own carrying capacity, the energy balance of the wormhole will be seriously damaged, which will cause the wormhole to collapse, the exit position to change or even disappear, and seriously affect the life of the wormhole. Chapter 494 Cirrus Family. Since the number of spacecraft passing through a wormhole is very important for the navigation safety of spacecraft, every time a wormhole is discovered, the Galactic Empire will have a special scientific research institution to measure and evaluate the energy level of the wormhole, so as to calculate a safe number of spacecraft passing through the wormhole. The number of spacecraft passing through this wormhole is generally positively correlated with the volume of the wormhole. The larger the volume of the wormhole, the more energy it contains, and the larger the number of spacecraft passing through it. Of course, this is not absolute. There are also many small wormholes that have very large number of spacecraft passing through. This is related to the development and life of the wormhole. Some wormholes are well developed, so the number of spacecraft passing through wormholes of the same volume is large. Some wormholes are not well developed, and even if they are large in size, the number of spacecraft passing through is not high. In addition, there are wormholes at the end of their lifespan. Most of the energy has been lost, so the number of spacecraft passing through will not be large. Now, after measurement, the wormhole has a throughput of nearly 5,000, which means that in just 7 days, the Northern Empire can send a fleet of nearly 5,000 medium-sized spacecraft from the Sakhalin starfield to the Baikal starfield, which will cause great trouble to the deployment of the Galactic Empire. The Northern Empire can transfer the main force of the fleet from the Western Front to the Eastern Front in half a month, and vice versa. But the Galactic Empire can't do that. They don't have such a wormhole running through the Eastern and Western administrative regions. Carlos carefully summarized the data and intelligence, and they plan to report the matter to the Galactic Empire as soon as they came out of the wormhole. Regarding the local area network of the Northern Empire, Robot number 3 is now responsible for unified monitoring. Carlos has already transmitted the latest clone, Robot number 5, through data. Now Robot number 5 has begun to work in the local area network of Baikal. In the secret study of Mana and Shia Neo and Star, the Northern Empire, the father and son are having a secret conversation. Sitting behind the large desk is Fusei Cyrus, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Agriculture of the Empire, who took office last year. After the attack on the top military officials, his unlucky predecessor and his 2 sons were confiscated for leaking state secrets and colluding with assassins. Cyrus took the opportunity to ascend to the high position of Deputy Prime Minister. After becoming the Deputy Prime Minister, Fusei, who was previously unknown, worked diligently. He showed amazing talent in this position. Although he usually did not show his talent, he was soon recognized by the cabinet. Of course, this was also related to his good communication skills and the fact that he was surrounded by a group of supporters and allies. Fusei had an advantage that ordinary officials did not have at all. His ability to climb to this position was also related to his family. The Cyrus family was the largest agricultural family in the entire galaxy. They controlled thousands of agricultural planets, and nearly 50% of the agricultural and sideline products in the entire galaxy were provided by the Cyrus family. The wealth of their Cyrus family was countless, and they also had a large-scale private armed force, which was still very influential in the entire galaxy. Because of this, their family had always had a position of Deputy Minister of Agriculture in the Ministry of Agriculture. Fusei inherited this position because he became the patriarch of this generation of the Cyrus family. Because of his outstanding ability and his family's contribution to the Galactic Empire, Fusei was later promoted to the position of Minister of Agriculture. He worked hard in this position for decades, and finally climbed to the position of Deputy Prime Minister. Now, his influence in the Galactic Empire has risen. In any regime, there will be party struggles and cliques for personal gain. It is inevitable that ministers in different positions collude with each other, send out dissidents, and seek political benefits for themselves. After Fusei became the Deputy Prime Minister, a group of politicians with special purposes naturally gathered around him. Because everyone knows that the old Prime Minister Anke is about to retire, and now the Deputy Prime Minister is the most favorable competitor for the position of Prime Minister. If he curries favor with the Cyrus family now, if he becomes Prime Minister in the future, the rewards will be amazing. Fusei is not to be outdone. He is the leader of an important political force. One of the principles he believes in is to surround the city with the countryside. The strategic principle of surrounding the city with the countryside originated from the strategy of avoiding the strong and attacking the weak in the ancient Chinese military books on Earth. The famous Weni Weni Jiuzhao came from this strategic principle. However, the significance of this strategic principle goes far beyond the scope of avoiding the strong and attacking the weak. It also includes strategic significance such as preserving living forces, controlling points with the surface, strategic transfer and geoeconomics, which has certain guiding significance for today's economic construction and business management. Fusei knew that he could not fit into the most mainstream political circle of the empire, which was the core cabinet composed of the Royal Elders Council, the military, the Ministry of the Interior and other key departments of the Galactic Empire. So he united all the forces that could be united and spent a long time to gather those who could not fit into the cabinet circle together to form a secret political party. Fusei's party gathered officials from all the non-key departments of the Galactic Empire, as well as deputies from many important departments. Although these people did not have real power for the time being, they had ambitions and desires. Fusei used this to gather them all together. They were very secretive at the beginning, not radical, but developed little by little. There were people who became the top leaders from the position of deputy. When the cabinet noticed it, they had become a political force that was ignored by Nayan. And they did not seem to cause much trouble, and the empire could not take action against them. Sitting opposite Fusei at this time was a young man who was only 26 or 27 years old. This was his son Caesar Cyrus. Caesar was Fusei's eldest son. He had just graduated from the Royal Military Academy the year before last, but he did not join the army or enter the official career, but helped his father manage the family business. Fusei had 2 sons. His youngest son was born last year, and there were 3 daughters in the family. Although Fusei's daughters were not very old, they all married the children of several political allies for marriage. Marriage was already a common thing in these big families. Unlike his predecessor, the Gao family, the 2 sons of the Gao family were idiots and prodigals, while his son was very capable, even not worse than Fusei, the father. Caesar was a C-level mecha master and was resourceful. The Cyrus family actually had a very long history. Before the space warring state Syrah thousands of years ago, their family was a royal family of a country with multiple star systems. But this country was very weak, and was annexed by the Galactic Empire in the early days of the war. Since the Qin family was not very powerful at that time, and needed to unite all the forces that could be united, the Cyrus family surrendered to the Galactic Empire early on. This period of history has been more than 1,000 years now, and has long been forgotten. However, in the secret inheritance of the Cyrus family, restoration has always been their dream. They firmly believe that any powerful empire will eventually divide after a long period of unity, and will eventually unite after a long period of division. After the unification of the Galactic Empire, it began to decline, especially now that the Northern Empire has split, which has made them see an opportunity. Although they do not have military power, their power among the people is very strong. Their family's strategy is to develop quietly and wait for an opportunity to restore. Chapter 495, Evil Conspiracy. In the study of Cyrus, the Vice Prime Minister of the Galactic Empire, in Xianyuan Star, the capital of the Galactic Empire, Cyrus Fusei and his son Caesar were plotting the restoration of the Cyrus family. Caesar, tell me what our family should do next to gain more power. Fusei's son was not as stupid as his predecessor's 2 sons. He might not have as much experience as Fusei, but his ability and wisdom were better than Fusei. Fusei attached great importance to Caesar's opinion. Caesar thought for a moment. Father, according to the established policy of our family, we should take steady steps and lay low for a few generations before seeking to rise. However, the rebellion of the Northern Empire has created a great opportunity for us. The war is about to start. Although the Galactic Empire has a great advantage, Nicholas is not someone to be trifled with. As long as we use means in secret, we can make the forces of the 2 sides tend to balance. By then, both sides will be defeated, and it will be time for us to wait for an opportunity to start a rebellion. Fusei frowned after hearing his son's idea. Isn't this too radical? Our family's ancestral precepts teach us to accumulate food and slowly become king. It is precisely because of this concept that our family has continued to this day in the chaotic Milky Way. Father, the opportunity is rare and will never come again. If we miss this time, we will have to wait for hundreds of years. I'm afraid that by then, there will be variables and the spirit of the family members will be gone. Caesar said. At this time, a trace of resentment rose in his heart. He felt that his father liked his younger brother more and wanted him to make wedding clothes for his younger brother, which he would never allow. What do you want to do specifically? I want to marry Princess Crossing. Caesar's eyes were filled with greed and fanaticism. He had coveted Princess Crossing for a long time. Although Kinjana expressed her admiration for Xia Xingchen, he still looked down on a mecha master who was born a minor. There are many people in their family who are stronger than Xia Xingchen. And Xia Xingchen is a soldier. It is easy to make a soldier disappear on the battlefield. Why not Princess Yu? I heard that Kinjana is a bit unruly, and Princess Yu is closer to your age. Fusei pondered. Caesar sneered. Father, Princess Yu has an extremely strong temperament, and is not so easy to succumb. Besides, her guardian knight Hao Cheng is backed by the Holy Temple. Although the holy temple is very low-key, it is not something we can afford to offend. You don't want me to bring disaster to the family. This. Fusei was speechless. What's more, I like Kinjaina's type. The wilder the woman is, the more sense of accomplishment she has in conquering. What do you mean? Father, the family can take action now. We have to strike Princess Crossing now and knock down her confidence, sense of superiority and power. Then find someone to kill Xia Xingchen, and I can take advantage of the opportunity. In the court, you can put pressure on that dog emperor. As long as I can marry Princess Crossing, your reputation and status will be further improved. By then, you can replace the old dog and K. By then, our Cirrus family will be the first family in name only. Then we will wait for an opportunity to replace the Qin family and fulfill the long cherished wish of our ancestors. Fusei fell into deep thought again. Undoubtedly, the plan proposed by Caesar is feasible. K is a mountain pressing on his head, and he cannot move forward without moving him away. But no one knows what this fox thinks about the issue of succession. He also didn't dare to attack Anke, because he knew that, if something happened to Anke, he would be the biggest suspect, and if the political situation of the Galactic Empire was in turmoil, it might lead to a further defeat on the battlefield. If Nicholas won the final victory of the war, even if they surrendered, his family's wealth and power would be swallowed up by that greedy guy. Do you have a specific action plan now? This matter must be considered carefully, and cannot be taken lightly. Now Princess Crossing's reputation is at its peak. I will strike her down and knock down her confidence. Let's start with the Princess Agreement. Our family's intelligence personnel have locked onto the whereabouts of the miners' leader Chenzinger. They are now going to the planet in the southern part of the Western Administrative Region to contact the miners' organization. We can send people to secretly kill her and put the blame on the Galactic Empire. Many of the garrisons on the planets in the southern part of the Western Administrative Region are our people. When the time comes, the miners will blame everything on her. The Galactic Empire will be in chaos, and those damned miners will be suppressed. It really kills three birds with one stone. Okay, let's do it this way. You will allocate the family's resources, and I will handle the affairs of the court. Fusei Cirrus was very excited. The Princess Agreement signed by Princess Crossing Kinjaina and the miners' leader Xia Xingchen, who used the alias Chenzinger, gave hope to trillions of miners in the Milky Way. In addition to the slave traders, the groups that suffered the most from the Princess Agreement were the interstellar farmers and mine owners who had a large demand for cheap labor. The Cirrus family was the largest interstellar mine owner in the entire Milky Way. They hated Xia Xingchen and Kinjaina to the core. The father and son looked at each other and grinned. Galactic Empire, Saphiri, the southern border of the Western Administrative Region. This is a large gathering area of mining planets and agricultural planets. On these planets, miners account for a very large proportion of the population. Above a planet called Saphiri, there is an old medium-sized warship. At this time, the warship is making final preparations to enter the atmosphere. Xia Xingchen sat in the cockpit, staring blankly at the space outside the window, and a figure emerged in her mind. She missed Xia Xingchen very much. Since the moment she learned that Xia Xingchen went to the Northern Empire, she has never slept well again. As soon as she closed her eyes, she thought of him. Now she is haggard. At this time, an alarm suddenly sounded on the spaceship. The radar showed that more than a dozen medium-sized spaceships were approaching their spaceship from all directions. Listen, the pirates in front of you. Put down your weapons and surrender immediately. You still have a chance to survive. Otherwise you will die. A solemn warning came from the public channel. We are not pirates. We are the full-powered special supervisors of the rights of miners authorized by the Princess of the Stars to supervise the living conditions of the miners on the Saphiri star. Don't be so fussy. Put down your weapons and surrender immediately. There are already survivors who have been robbed and reported you. You have robbed so many spaceships and killed so many people. If you resist stubbornly, don't blame us for being rude. We will open fire immediately. You. The captain of the spaceship was speechless for a moment. This was really a scholar meeting a soldier, and he couldn't explain himself clearly. All ships are ready. Enter the first level combat readiness state and force a landing before they get close. All mecha divisions are on standby in the mecha warehouse. Xia Xingchen ordered. Yes, miss. The captain replied. Set the mecha bay to emergency ejection mode and launch all anti-ship missiles and space torpedoes. The captain gave the order and the spacecraft plunged into the atmosphere of the planet Sapphire. Chapter 496 Spaceship Crash. On the southern border of the western administrative region of the Galactic Empire, on the agricultural planet Sephori, the medium-sized warship that Xia Xingchen was riding on was attacked by more than a dozen spaceships of the local garrison when landing. Xia Xingchen decided to force the spaceship to land. On the opposite spaceship, a colonel-ranked soldier was chatting and laughing with a man in gorgeous clothes in the command room. Colonel Van Gaal, if you catch or kill Chenzinger this time, it will definitely be a great achievement. Master Caesar will not treat meritorious officials unfairly, a bald middle-aged man said to an officer. His name is Perugia, and he is the right-hand man of Caesar Cyrus. Then I have to trouble Mr. Perugia. Colonel Van Gaal was very respectful. He is a small person in charge of the garrison of more than a dozen agricultural and mining planets in this area. These planets are too remote and barren, so there are not many garrisons. He, a colonel, is the highest ranking officer in the vicinity. Sir, they are launching torpedoes and anti-ship missiles. A driver shouted. All units fight back. Fire when the spacecraft reaches the range. Colonel Van Gaal was a little depressed. It seemed that the opponent was not so obedient. At this time, Xia Xingchen was sitting in a ranger mech, anxiously waiting for the result. Miss, there is serious electromagnetic interference here, and it is impossible to contact the outside world. I suspect that there is an electronic warfare spacecraft in the opponent's warship. The captain replied. Electronic warfare refers to the military struggle between hostile parties for the use and control of the electromagnetic spectrum, including electronic reconnaissance and counter-reconnaissance, electronic interference and counter-interference, electronic deception and counter-deception, electronic stealth and counter-stealth, electronic destruction and counter-destruction, etc. In the Earth era, electronic warfare is very important. It can completely paralyze the opponent's reconnaissance system, communication system, etc., and even send viruses to make the opponent's command center malfunction. Losing the advantage of electronic warfare in modern warfare is fatal. In the space age, electronic warfare is still very important, so electronic warfare spacecraft, electronic warfare satellites, electronic warfare aircraft and even electronic warfare personal terminals have appeared. This time, two of the spacecrafts surrounding them were electronic warfare spacecrafts, which completely cut off all communication frequencies, making it impossible for their spacecraft to contact the outside world. Even Skynet could not be connected. Xia Xingchen's face was at hen. She recorded a video to explain what they encountered and left a lot of evidence. Then she uploaded the video to a device the size of a beverage bottle. The device was quietly thrown into space through the garbage discharge port. Compared with the huge spacecraft, this device is so inconspicuous that it is regarded as ordinary space junk and no one cares about it. The spacecraft quickly flew into the atmosphere. The outer shell of the spacecraft rubbed violently with the atmosphere, and the entire outer shell was burned red. Several lasers behind the spacecraft hit the tail of the spacecraft. The spacecraft's thrusters emitted billowing smoke and it immediately lost most of its power. It plunged to the ground with billowing smoke. The captain tried his best to stabilize the spacecraft, but to no avail. The spacecraft plunged to the ground 100,000 meters, 80,000 meters, 50,000 meters. No, it's completely stalled. Eject all the mechas. Miss, I can't stay with you any longer. Please take care of yourself. Xia Xingchen's eyes welled up with tears after hearing this. At this moment, the doors of several mecha launch bays on the spacecraft suddenly exploded, and the ejection devices inside ejected the mechas. Xia Xingchen's specially made Ranger mecha and Natalia's Ice and Snow Goddess mecha were ejected at the first time. However, due to the huge inertia of the spacecraft, the mechas were still spinning and smashing towards the ground. Xingchen, listen to my command. Don't turn on the thrusters yet. Try to adjust the posture of the mecha. Wait until the posture of the mecha is stable and step on the power pedal. After making sure that the main thrusters are upward, the thrusters will be fully output. Natalia was very calm. If she stepped on the power pedal hard at this time, she might fall faster. So she reminded Xia Xingchen calmly. Xia Xingchen did it strictly. She was only a D-level mecha master and had never taken the exam. Finally, when the mechas were still a few thousand meters away from the ground, the two mechas finally got rid of the gravity of the Earth's center and flew into the sky. Unfortunately, the mechas that were ejected later did not have enough distance to get rid of the gravity of the crashed spacecraft and crashed to the ground one after another. Hundreds of kilometers away, the smoke and flames from the crashed spacecraft rushed straight into the sky. Chen Tingting gritted her teeth. She wanted to avenge her dead partner, and Natalia was very clear about their situation. She asked Chen Tingting to detonate her mecha and let Chen Tingting sit in the Snow Queen mecha. The Snow Queen mecha was fast and nuclear powered, which was easy to escape. The two of them rushed towards the primeval forest. More than half an hour later, a search team consisting of hundreds of mechas and aircraft arrived here and carefully checked the wreckage of each spacecraft and mecha. They received an order from Colonel Van Gaal. We must find the rebel leader Chenzinger, alive or dead. More than 10 hours later, in the space of the planet Sephori, the fleet that ambushed Chen Tingting finally left, and the two electronic warfare spacecraft also left, and the large-scale search operation on the ground was officially launched. At this time, due to the absence of electromagnetic interference, a device the size of a beverage bottle locked onto the weak Skynet signal in space and transmitted the video of Chen Tingting and its location to the personal terminal of the Star Princess Kinjana. Kinjana, who was far away in the Lowland starfield, was stunned after seeing the video. She quickly contacted the Emperor Kinzhi of the Empire and the Imperial military. This matter is of great importance and the consequences are very serious. Emperor Kinzhi did not dare to neglect it and immediately summoned his ministers to a meeting to discuss countermeasures for this matter. At this time, in the conference room of the palace, the Emperor Kinzhi, the Great Elder of the Imperial Council of Elders Qin Yuanshan, the Prime Minister of the Empire Nkei, the Minister of the Interior Dai Yunfei, as well as the Chief of Staff of the Military, 5-star General Zhang Qinglong, and the Grand Marshal Feng Bismarck all came to the conference room of the palace. Also present was Dai Ren, the Director of the Strategic Intelligence Department of the Galactic Empire. The reason why Dai Ren was invited to attend the meeting was first, because their strategic intelligence agency was doing an excellent job, and they were leaving the other 3 intelligence agencies behind. More importantly, he had a very good relationship with Xia Xingchen, and could contact Xia Xingchen. At this time, the video sent back by Chen Tingting was playing on the wall of the conference room. In the video, optical images can be seen, which was the spacecraft of the local garrison preparing to launch an attack. Seeing this, Emperor Kinzhi was furious. The impact of this incident was really too bad. No matter which force the attackers belonged to, they launched the attack in the name of the local garrison after all, and this account will definitely be attributed to the military and the government of the Galactic Empire. When the miners know that their leader was killed by the army of the Galactic Empire, they don't care where you are from, whether it is the Royal Fleet or something else. The garrison also belongs to the Galactic Empire, and then it will be bloody again. The Galactic Empire will be attacked from both sides. Has the military contacted Sephori? What is going on? Your Majesty, Sephori cut off the network connection on the pretext of a communication signal failure. We don't know what the situation is over there now. This is outrageous. This is rebellion. Emperor Kinzhi slammed the table in anger. Chapter 497 The Empire's Countermeasures. Chen Tingting's spaceship was attacked in the Western Administrative District of the Galaxy Empire, and the Emperor of the Galaxy Empire was furious, especially when he learned that the local garrison refused to explain the situation on the pretext of a bad signal when the military questioned it. Rebellion. This is a rebellion. Kinzhi was furious. Come here. The military court of the Imperial Army and the Ministry of the Interior will form a joint investigation team to bring all the parties back for trial. In addition, we have to discuss in detail how to eliminate the consequences of this incident. This is a huge trouble. Those responsible, whether it is to kill the 9 clans or to skin them alive. In short, we have to give an explanation to the miners. Alas, if this trust is lost, how much will it cost to get it back? Emperor Kinzhi looked gloomy. In his opinion, Chen Tingting was already in danger. Your Majesty, I have a different opinion. I don't know whether I should say it or not. Dai Yunfei, who had not expressed his opinion, suddenly spoke. Qin Zhi was also very surprised that this imperial interior minister would never take the initiative to express his opinion. Now that he has done this, maybe he can really have something unique. Lord Day, please go ahead. Your Majesty, our priority now is not to launch an investigation, but to rescue. Rescue? Most people were stunned. They agreed with Emperor Qin Zhi. Your Majesty, everyone, our Ministry of the Interior has been dealing with Chen Xingchen for a long time. In order to capture her, our Ministry of the Interior racked its brains, but she escaped. I think the garrison troops will not be more powerful than the Ministry of the Interior, so I guess Chen Xingchen has escaped. Is this true? Great. The conference room was in chaos. So, Your Majesty, please send troops to rescue as soon as possible. Besides, if those people have the intention of rebellion, the investigation team sent out will be in danger. Lord Day Yunfei is right. Send people quickly. I wonder how the military has arranged it? Emperor Qin Zhi asked anxiously. Your Majesty, Princess Crossing is leading 50 warships to Sephora in person and is expected to arrive in 25 days. The Third Fleet has already set out with 50 warships from Ubenstar and will arrive in about 15 days. The troops are fully sufficient. Moreover, if more troops are drawn, it is likely to break our defense deployment, which is exactly what Nicholas hopes for. Marshal von Bismarck replied. Alas, 15 days, it's not enough. Emperor Qin Zhi sat there in a daze. The whole room fell into silence. At this time, the Chief of General Staff, 5-star General Zhang Qinglong, spoke. Your Majesty, we actually have a troop nearby, which can arrive there in about 5 or 6 days, but the mobilization of this troop must be authorized by you. Emperor Qin Zhi and the people present were all brightened. You mean, the Nebula Knights? Exactly. But they have only been established for more than a month. Can they form combat effectiveness? If they set a trap, wouldn't we suffer heavy losses? Qin Zhi was very worried. Your Majesty, compared with the Princess Agreement, it doesn't matter if the Nebula Knights are completely wiped out. They are soldiers, and sacrifice is inevitable. Besides, the Nebula Knights are the elite among the elites, and they will not be afraid of this little difficulty. We don't have much time, and actual combat is the best way to integrate the troops. Marshal von Bismarck explained. The old Prime Minister NK spoke. Your Majesty, as the saying goes, you raise an army for 1,000 days and use it for a moment. I agree with the military's plan. Rescuing Chen Xingchen is of great strategic significance to the empire. Dai Yunfei and others also agreed. After thinking for a while, Qin Zhi finally made up his mind. Then let's go. General Zhang Qinglong, you go and deal with this matter now, and then let Marshal Feng bring you the minutes of the meeting. Yes, Your Majesty. 5-star General Zhang Qinglong took the order and left. Okay, everyone, what do you think of this matter? Is Nicholas behind the scenes? According to reliable intelligence, Nicholas has many spies in my dynasty. Emperor Qin Zhi was worried. NK shook his head. In my opinion, this was not done by Nicholas, but we have a traitor. The traitor. Everyone was in an uproar. I also agree with Lord NK. At this time, Minister of the Interior Dai Yunfei expressed his opinion. First of all, it takes a huge price to command so many warships to carry out illegal activities, especially in the southern border area. The North cannot have such a great ability now. Second, I feel that these people's purpose is not to help Nicholas, but to cause both of us to lose, in order to achieve their ulterior motives. You know, the Milky Way is big and there are all kinds of birds. Third, if it was Nicholas who did it, the timing is not right. If we act now, we have enough time to deal with this matter. This is not Nicholas' style at all. Who could it be? Your Majesty, there are too many ambitious people. In this court, everyone is jealous of our positions and wants to replace us. Once this happened, all the blame will be put on the government and the military. At that time, some people will put pressure on the government to express their political demands. The old Prime Minister said slowly. This almost 90-year-old guy has been in this big melting pot all his life and has seen everything. Then what should we do? Please teach me, old man. Emperor Qin Zhi's attitude was very sincere. Kill. 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 NK suddenly felt a murderous aura. Galactic Empire, Southern Administrative Region, Lingshu Star. After more than a month, the main base on Lingshu Star has been completely put on track, and several branch bases have also begun construction. At this time, the Tang Dynasty group has transported 1,000 Nebula Knight mechas, and the mecha divisions have also arrived. There are a total of 15 C-class mecha divisions and 200 D-class mecha divisions. In terms of warships, 50 rare-class medium-sized high-speed mecha cruisers are in place, and are conducting uninterrupted patrols and training 24 hours a day. There are also 10 large mecha transport ships on standby at any time. However, the training ground on Lingshu Star has been very lively these days. Those later mecha divisions were dissatisfied with each other, so they fought in the simulator and the training ground. No one wanted to be ridden on the head, especially a guy named Zhang Lingwu among them. He is Zhang Yengying's eldest brother. Chapter 498, Nebula Knight's First Battle. Zhang Lingwu was a lawless war criminal when he was in the 7th Fleet. He challenged all the C-class mecha divisions. Zhang Lingwu, who was full of confidence, originally thought that if there were 1 or 2 people who were stronger than him, that would be the limit. As a result, he found that there were 5 people like 5 mountains pressing on his head. And these 5 people were the first 5 mecha divisions to come here. He was not surprised to lose to Lo. Lo had a family background and had also fought on the front line for so many years. It was normal that he could not beat him, but he was surprised to lose to the other people. The guy named Basingwa fought hard from the beginning, using various fighting methods to die together, which made him look dirty and exhausted. The mecha sniper rifle in the hand of the guy named Polo was like a soul, and he could not hide from it at all. And the guy named Haji was insidious and cunning, never fighting him head on, and every time he exhausted his patience, he would jump out from nowhere and whip his corpse. There was also the beautiful girl named Scarlet, who became good friends with her sister Zhang Yengying in a few days. Zhang Lingwu couldn't beat her, and this kind of defeat was not equal, but was abused. On this day, several people were fighting on the simulator again, and suddenly the first level combat alarm sounded at the base. The mecha divisions quickly gathered at the command center. 5 minutes later, everyone arrived and saw the serious face of Colonel Barisi. An emergency occurred in the Western Administrative District and we need to intervene. 5 spaceships, 100 mecha divisions. I want the best 100. In 30 minutes, take your mechas to board the spaceport and prepare to set off. The rest of you will continue training at the base. When I'm not here, Major Hans Grandet will be directly responsible for all matters at the base. For those who participate in this operation, my request to you is, use me in the first battle, and I will win. Use me in the first battle, and I will win. The soldiers shouted excitedly. Although they were given 30 minutes, it only took more than 10 minutes for everyone to assemble. This is Carlos's requirement for all members of the Nebula Knights. As a special force, the soldiers have no personal belongings and nothing to prepare. They can set off at any time upon receiving the order, even if they are on vacation. This seems inhumane, but Colonel Carlos told them that they are facing war and brutal enemies. And on the battlefield, time is life. In the Nebula Knights, except for Colonel Barisi, all other mecha divisions have a ranking. This ranking changes at any time. The results of the mecha divisions within the Knights will be input into the central optical computer of the Lingshu Star base to form a ranking. This time, Colonel Barisi selected the 100 strongest people, which was also Zhang Yengying's idea. For such a task, the more people, the better. And too many people are not conducive to confidentiality and effect speed. Led by the flagship Rhine-class high-speed mecha cruiser Augsburg, the remaining 4 Ur-class high-speed mecha cruisers drove to the Sephori Galaxy at full speed. On the way, Zhang Yengying explained the specific plan of this combat operation to the combat personnel of each ship in the communication. The goal of the operation is to search and rescue Chen Tingting. However, this operation is likely to engage in a firefight with the local garrison, and even the entire local garrison must be prepared for a billion. The garrison of Sephori has more than 100 warships and 2,000 to 3,000 mechas. This is likely to turn into a large-scale local war. At this time, Sephori is now very busy, with thousands of mechas and various aircraft carrying out large-scale search and arrest operations. They did not find Chen Tingting's body at the place where the spacecraft crashed. The radar on the ground of the local garrison showed that several mechas were ejected before the crash. Natalia was very tired. She had killed hundreds of mechas and hundreds of aircraft in these days. Some of these mechas were from the local garrison, and the others were mercenaries. Only Colonel Van Gaal and Perugia knew about the Cirrus family's actions this time. They were brave enough to cut off their own arms this time. As long as they were sure to kill Xia Xingchen, the two of them would disappear immediately. Van Gaal's soldiers only knew that they were hunting for the brutal rebels. And the rebels were indeed very dangerous. They suffered heavy losses in the pursuit for 4 or 5 days. Fortunately, a big businessman with a sense of justice issued a bounty mission, making those mercenaries their scapegoats. At this time, in the space 120,000 kilometers away from Safari, this is the Luther-Norman space station. This space station has 30 berths, and now there are more than 20 warships parked on it. This is the headquarters base of the Safari garrison. At this time, in the command center of the base, Colonel Van Gaal was scolding his commanders through the communication channel, scolding them for their incompetence. Tens of thousands of people were powerless against 2 people and 1 mecha, and the losses were heavy. Colonel Van Gaal was very anxious. Now the Galactic Empire is constantly trying to get in touch with him, and the military questioned his orders one after another, and he ordered his men to suppress them. Only after confirming that Xia Xingchen was solved, the Cirrus family can give him the promised benefits and take him away, otherwise it will be easy to be blocked by the military and the Ministry of the Interior. He knew very well that, if something like this happened, neither the military law department nor the Ministry of the Interior would let him go. In the command center of the Luther-Norman space station above the planet Safari in the southern part of the Western Administrative Region, the commander of the local garrison fleet, Colonel Van Gaal, cursed his commanders through the communication channel, calling them incompetent. Colonel Van Gaal was very anxious. Now the Galactic Empire is constantly trying to get in touch with their troops. The military questioned his orders one after another, and he ordered his men to suppress them. Only by confirming that Xia Xingchen is truly solved can the Cirrus family give him the promised benefits and take him away, otherwise he will be easily blocked by the military and the Ministry of the Interior. He knew very well that, if something like this happened, neither the military court nor the Ministry of the Interior would let him go. Lord Perugia, Chenzinga's guards are very strong, and her guards are driving nuclear-powered mechas, so it is difficult for us to catch him. But please rest assured, they have been working non-stop for the past 4 or 5 days, and have reached a limit. I will order my men to take her down at all costs, even if it means grinding her to death. Chapter 499. In desperate situation. Colonel Van Gaal looked very humble, and took credit for his new master. Colonel Van Gaal, you don't have to worry. As long as you can lock their position, our family has sent out 10 elite mecha division teams to help you. This time, they can't escape. 4 of the 10 mecha division teams sent by the Cirrus family were led by a C-class mecha division, and the rest were D-class mecha divisions. The other 6 elite mecha division teams were all mercenary groups, and their members were all mecha divisions above D-class. Such forces are the configuration of elite troops in the army. Report: 5 warships were found approaching 20,000 kilometers away. The optical image of the reconnaissance satellite has been transmitted. The Rhine-class medium-sized mecha cruiser was found. The number is 1, and the Ruhr-class high-speed mecha cruiser was found. The number is 4, approaching at high speed. The enemy identification signal shows that it is a ship of the Royal Fleet. The maximum detection range of ordinary warships is 10,000 kilometers. However, large space stations have the space to install more powerful radars, so their maximum detection distance can reach 15,000 to 20,000 kilometers. With the help of reconnaissance satellites, the detection distance can be greatly increased. Why would the Royal Fleet come to such a desolate place like ours? It seems that they are not friendly. You continue to observe. All troops issue a second-level combat alert. Prepare for battle. Colonel Van Gaal actually issued a combat alert. Colonel, this is inappropriate, isn't it? The subordinates questioned. The identification code is from the Galactic Empire military. It has been confirmed to be correct. There is no reason to issue a combat alert. Execute the order. Why are you talking so much nonsense? As a soldier, shouldn't you always be vigilant? What if this is the Northern Empire's army pretending to be? Can you bear the responsibility? Colonel Van Gaal was a little angry. Yes, sir. The subordinates didn't dare to say anything more. Colonel Van Gaal always said what he meant. Frightened by his power, his subordinates generally didn't dare to refute him. Colonel Van Gaal then turned his head and cast an inquiring look at Perugia. Lord Perugia, look at this. Colonel Van Gaal, at this point, we have no way back. We can only kill. If we can't kill that ugly woman Chinzinger, everything we do is meaningless. Don't worry, there is no problem with your safety. Your family has been properly settled. They now have a new identity and are enjoying a good life in Antarctic Star. And everything you have done is valuable. The young master will not treat those who have made contributions unfairly. Do you understand what I mean? I understand, Lord Perugia. Report to the commander. The other party sent a message saying that they are from the Royal Fleet and are here to investigate the attack on Special Envoy Chenzinger. They ask you to go to their warship to explain the situation and accept the investigation. The Nebula Knights are still in a state of confidentiality, so their current actions are claimed to be from the Royal Fleet. Quick, sound the first level combat alert. All spacecraft immediately start to leave the port to meet the enemy. The defensive operation is organized by the General Staff. Get my mecha ready for me. I'm ready to fight. Colonel Van Gaal is also a B-class mecha division, and his participation in the battle is a kind of combat plan for the garrison. Then he contacted the person in charge of ground operations on the planet Sapphire and learned that Xia Xingchen was about to be surrounded and the mecha she was riding was already badly damaged. Perugia was very satisfied to hear the news. He stood up. Very good, Colonel. Let your men hurry up and kill that woman. In order to prevent any more trouble, she must not be alive. I will go to my spaceship first and wait for you at position NE 56,98,51. After you deal with the invading enemy and make sure that Chenzinger is dead, take the mecha to meet me. Okay, Mr. Perugia. Please take care and see you later. The person in charge of ground operations said flatteringly. Not long after, a small high-speed spaceship with no markings flew out from the back of the Luther Norman space station. What no one noticed was that just as the spaceship was about to arrive at the location agreed upon by Colonel Van Gaal and Perugia, the hatch under the spaceship opened, and a long-range nuclear-powered fighter quietly flew away. At this time, on a plane on the Star Safari, Natalia and Xia Xingchen were struggling to drive the mecha forward. Sister Natalia, take a rest and let me drive. You are now overdrawing your mental strength. Xia Xingchen said anxiously. It has been 5 days, and the two of them have been running around in a desperate state. The most Natalia has ever rested for is only 3 hours, and she was immediately discovered by the pursuers. There is no other way. The blue and white body of her ice and snow goddess mecha is too conspicuous. It is difficult to hide on such a planet dominated by planes. Besides, there are satellites in the sky monitoring their every move. As long as they stay in one place for more than 10 minutes, a large number of mecha troops will rush to intercept and kill them. A few days ago, Xia Xingchen occasionally replaced Natalia to operate the mecha to travel. But now, they are exhausted and have not eaten for nearly 2 days. Now Natalia dare not let Xia Xingchen replace herself, because once she disconnects the mental power connection, she will never be able to connect to the mecha's mental control system again with her current mental power state. Suddenly, an alarm sounded in the cockpit of the ice and snow goddess mecha, and dozens of mechas were approaching them at high speed. Natalia frowned. Judging from the speed and formation of these mechas on the radar, the performance of these mechas is very good, and the level of many mecha masters here is not much different from hers. This time, it is really dangerous. Xingchen, we are really in danger this time. We may not be able to escape. Natalia's voice was a little low. Sister Natalia, we are in life and death together. We must fight to the death. We must take a few more people with us before we die. If it doesn't work, we will self-destruct. Xia Xingchen said firmly. In these years, she has been fighting for the interests of the miners and running around the galaxy. She has long put life and death aside. Natalia stepped on the power pedal and rushed to the weakest point of the encirclement. Chapter 500, The First Battle of the Nebula Knights. Galactic Empire, Western Administrative District, in outer space of the planet Safari. At a distance of 10,000 kilometers from the Luther Norman space station, Some of the enemy's spacecraft have left the ship and are in battle formation. The enemy's fire control radar has been turned on and is aiming at us. In the command center of the flagship Augsburg of the Nebula battle group of the Nebula Knights, Zhang Yingying and Colonel Bessie stared at the big screen in front of them seriously. Hearing the situation reported by the co-pilot, both of them raised their eyebrows, extremely angry. Colonel, it seems that the situation is not good. The garrison troops on the opposite side may have partly or all rebelled. Do you think we should fight in, or continue to negotiate? Zhang Yingying said. Colonel Bessie nodded. Yingying, I hate traitors the most. Let's fight, and there is no time left. We can't waste time arguing with them. You will command the battle, and for traitors, kill them without hesitation. Seeing that the highest commander had expressed his position, Zhang Yingying no longer had any concerns. Issue a level 1 combat alert. All pilots' mecha cabins are on standby. Prepare for space combat. All warships maintain combat formation. Engine output power 60%. All communication frequencies are connected. I will issue a notice to the Luther Norman Space Station. Report to the commander. The communication has been connected. The communicator reported. Zhang Yingying sat up straight and pointed at the camera. This is the Royal Fleet Nebula Combat Cluster. We have been ordered to investigate the attack on Investigator Chenzinger on Safari. Colonel Van der Sar and some officers are seriously suspected of treason. Please quickly lay down your weapons and accept investigation. If you resist stubbornly, you will be charged with treason. In the communication channel of the Safari garrison opposite, the soldiers were shocked, confused, and panicked after hearing the news. Especially those who participated in the robbery and killing operation. They were even more nervous. Nonsense. The Royal Fleet doesn't have any Nebula Combat Cluster at all. They are spies of the Northern Empire, and they are fake. All fleets are dispatched, launch space torpedoes, and kill them. In addition, turn off the public communication channel. Don't let them disturb the morale of the army. Quickly launch space torpedoes. Van Gaal shouted in a rage. The soldiers hesitated for a moment, but chose to obey the order. At this time, all the spaceships in the space station had already left the berth of the space station. Thousands of space torpedoes were launched from the space station and these spaceships, flying straight to the 5 spaceships of the Nebula Knights. 5,000 kilometers away from the Luther Norman space station, the optical imaging system is activated. 22 medium-sized warships are found. The distance is 4,500, and 5,340 space torpedoes are found. The distance is 4,200. The weapons of each ship are charged. The Augsburg positron city braking cannon is charged, and the Rare-class plasma cannon is charged. Zhang Yingying commanded and dispatched calmly. 1,000 kilometers away from the torpedo. Positron cannon and plasma cannon are ready. Scattering rate 90%. Irradiation line is clear. Ready. 300 kilometers away from the torpedo plasma cannon. Positron cannon fire. Following Zhang Yingying's order, 5 thick beams of plasma swept across the space. Because the scattering rate of plasma was adjusted very high, the diameter of the plasma was nearly 50 meters when it came into contact with the torpedo. With such a huge coverage shooting area, not a single one of the more than 5,000 space torpedoes was left. All of them were destroyed. The soldiers on the opposing battleships and in the space station were all dumbfounded. The plasma cannon and the positron cannon were so terrifying that one shot caused such great damage. These are real main battleships, the Ruhr class and the Rhine class. Oh my god, all the torpedoes are destroyed. Who are these people? I tell you, this must be the main force of the Galactic Empire. The entire garrison of the planet Safari was in a state of panic, and for a moment they were in a state of disarray. They were afraid that the opposing plasma cannons and positron city braking cannons would fall on them. 2,000 kilometers away from the opposing warships, all mechas of the Nebula Knights, move out. Zhang Yingying gave the order to attack. Although their Nebula Knights were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, they were not at a disadvantage in terms of firepower. The other side had 2 plasma cannons on the space station. There were no plasma cannons on other warships. The Augsburg was even equipped with a positron city braking cannon with a range of 1,000 kilometers. Zhang Yingying was confident that she could wipe them out without any damage. But the other side was the army of the Galactic Empire after all, and it would be difficult to explain to the higher ups if the losses were great. But the most fortunate thing was that they had a very powerful mecha unit. Nebula 101, low, air combat melee type Nebula Knight mecha, move out. Nebula 102, Polo, air combat sniper type Nebula Knight mecha, move out. Nebula 103, Haji, air combat sniper type Nebula Knight mech, dispatch. Nebula 104, Basingwa, fire suppression type Nebula Knight mech, dispatch. Nebula 105, Scarlet, anti-ship attack type new Nebula Knight mech, dispatch. Nebula 106, Zhang Lingwu, air combat assault type Nebula Knight mech, dispatch. This is the number of each mecha division. The nebula represents the battle group they are in. The first digit represents the number of their warship in the battle group, and the last two digits are their numbers on the warship. This is conducive to combat. Command 100 Nebula Knight mechas rushed out of the spacecraft one after another and pounced on the opposite side of the Sephori Star garrison. The garrison was not to be outdone. More than 800 mechas also flew out from the spacecraft and the Luther Norman space station. These are almost all the mechas they can currently deploy. The other mechas are left on Sephori Star to search for Chen Tingting. The 100 mechas of the Nebula Knights have evolved into 16 functional modules. They have initially acquired the ability to fight in all weather and various complex battlefield environments. Try not to kill people and make them lose their combat capability, but it is necessary to ensure your own safety. You can kill them when it is absolutely necessary. Colonel Bercy reminded. Yes, sir. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.